minute. Wait a minute. You know, this is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.
What is going on, guys? It is the Vince Wilson Show. We are back with another amazing episode. Guys, I hope you guys are excited. I know I'm not excited as we enter Donald Trump's recession. Like I've been saying, I said it this past weekend. I said it Friday. It's pretty clear. We're heading towards a recession. So we're seeing the stock market once again as Donald Trump was confronted about whether or not we were going to be seeing a recession. Sure enough, we're heading that way. Banana, what's going on, buddy? Welcome in. Welcome in. Everybody, listen, as you're coming in, make sure you hit that like button, okay? If you're on YouTube, hit that like button. Every single one of you guys can do it. I know you can. Hit that like button. It gets us out there to more streams. That's the least you can do, okay? If you want to go the extra mile and you want to subscribe, hit the subscribe button. But do me that solid. Hit that like button, please. As we continue on, yes, we know that Donald Trump is heading absolutely towards a recession. This is because of his economic policies with tariffs. This also goes with the fact that on Sunday, he did an interview with Marita Bartiromo, and in which case he said he could not comment and that there'd be a little bit of trouble. And when Donald Trump says to do this, we know what he means. He means that we are going to experience inflation. Now, we will go through some of how Maga has kind of flip-flopped on this idea. When Joe Biden was in office, it wasn't okay. But now that Donald Trump is in office, it's okay that we're going to have inflation. Guys, it's just part of the process. Mark Jones saying free P. Diddy. Oh, man. So, yeah, guys, we're going to go over that real quick. So let's go ahead and jump straight into it. You don't love Daddy Trump? I do not love Daddy Trump. And I would prefer that no other person call Trump their daddy, because that's kind of weird. That's just weird. That's like J.D. Vance weird. Javier Malay's too excuse, actually. Ain't that funny too, Wes, right? How they kind of had that intermingling. Almost like when Donald Trump said it when he came into office, he wanted to be a dictator on day one. Umbro nuno. Nuno? Uno. You know what I meant. All right. Let's jump straight into the solo web source here. We're going to be doing a lot of React Danny content, so don't worry, that's coming. We're going to be going over some of the Jubilee stuff with Sam Cedar, and then we're going to go over some Asmongold. So it's going to be a fun-filled stream. I don't have the wife or kids here at the house today because I had to work. And she's at her parents' house. Anyways, everything's good. I promise. I'm no longer the doghouse, so you don't have to worry about that. But we're going to be streaming probably a little bit longer than normal. So, expel the Federal Reservists. See, this is the funny thing about it. Y'all didn't complain about the Federal Reserve whenever Joe Biden was in office. Convenient. So, yeah. Oops, hope the ADL aren't watching. The ADL. Anti-Defamation League. But he's still better than cackling Kamala? No. Donald Trump is far worse than Kamala Harris and actually has far exceeded those expectations. We thought that Donald Trump couldn't get worse. Guys, he got exponentially worse than we thought he would be. We didn't think he could do it, but he did. For example, talking about how probably everybody could have predicted that he was going to side with Israel, for example. And now all of a sudden, he wants to put all of his properties in Gaza. It's pretty crazy. Nobody expected that. That was not on the bingo card. So yeah, pretty crazy. So anyways, let's looking at this right here. The stock market is comprised of, this is from Rand Paul, of all people. This is Rand Paul. Republicans are feeling the heat, guys. This is the thing about it, is Republicans are having to go back to their districts and to their town halls, and they're seeing their constituents getting upset, saying, look, you ran on lowering my prices, and I have yet to see my prices actually be decreased. It's crazy. And so Rand Paul here is like, look, The stock market is comprised of millions of people who are simultaneously trading. The market indices are a distillation of sentiment. When the markets tumble like this in response to tariffs, it pays to listen. What that means is, Donald Trump, stop trying to do this back and forth in volleyball game with tariffs. You can't handle it. And what we're seeing is Canada has already said that they're going to now go on the offensive and start issuing tariffs right back onto the U.S. Here's the thing. Canada now knows how to play this game. They said, okay, you're going to flip-flop back and forth. We're just going to throw the tariff on you. That's just what we're going to do. We're going to throw the tariff back on the United States. And so now Donald Trump is on his feet like, whoa, what do I do? What did you think of Adam Sandler? He was badly dressed as Marcelo. What kind of question is that about Adam Sandler? Listen, Adam Sandler is dressed like that, just like Elon Musk is in the office wearing a t-shirt, and once he got called out for it, then he started wearing a suit. See how that worked? Republicans are fine, Democrats are going crazy. How is that the case, Texas Repo? How are Republicans fine, but Democrats are going crazy? Democrats are going crazy. We're going crazy because of the fact that y'all are tanking our economy. Republicans are tanking our economy. It is because of you that we have this right here. It's because of you guys. What's going on, Miss Mandy? Here's a tissue. Wipe your eyes. Hold on. I got a tissue right here. Hold on. Here. That's the Maga tears, by the way. I was wiping up all y'all's Maga tears. So now, here's the other thing. Interactive polls just came out with a few other things. Keep in mind, guys, interactive polls on Twitter is heavily Republican. It's a very conservative polling, and they're having to announce this stuff right here. This is from Silver Bulletin, which I believe is from Nate Silver. I could be wrong on that, but I believe it's Nate Silver, showing that Trump has crossed the Rubicon. He is now disapproval. Donald Trump, the majority of people disapprove of what Donald Trump is doing. So, yeah. They'll answer the same masters. Ukrainian. Yeah, poor Ukraine, man. They're already trying to look at lifting sanctions right now on Russia, and all that's going to do is bolster Russians' fighting force. And what we're going to see is, unfortunately, Ukraine is going to be at the brunt end of that. So hopefully EU steps up and tries to play game, with it and go with that. Everyone thinks they're economists. I don't think I'm an economist, but I can understand that when the stock market declines pretty rapidly, and I know that we have 2 periods of negative GDP growth, that colloquially speaking, that's a recession. And again, keep in mind, by the way, guys, keep in mind that Maga was the same group that sat there and said that 2 periods of negative GDP growth is a recession. So if we go through with 2 periods of negative GDP growth, let it be known by their own metric that we are now in a recession. Now, we are heading that way, and that's certainly the way it looks. And we can see some of this pressure being felt by people like J.D. Vance right here. So J.D. Vance stated, President Trump's economic policies are simple. If you invest in and create jobs in America, you'll be rewarded. We'll lower regulations and reduce taxes. But if you build outside the United States, you're on your own. They can feel the pressure. They know. And they've been trying to throw this off to say this was Joe Biden's fault. This is not Joe Biden's fault. This is absolutely Donald Trump's fault. These tariffs did not get implemented by Joe Biden. These got implemented by Donald J. Trump. Y'all's daddy, MAGA's daddy. That's who it got implemented by. By the way, guys, we're at 96 viewers or more. Please hit that like button. The least you can do, hit that like button. Let's keep it going early on, okay? So for the end, we can have a lot more people here, okay? Hit that like button. If you don't like me, I don't care. Still, try to hit that like button. At least do me a solid. You're already here chatting. But anyways, Trump's economy is like getting into the game of Monopoly late. Only bad things happen. Exactly. Damien, come on, Damien. We gotta calm down now. Listen, I'm drinking this little smoothie shake. It's pretty good. You think it's gonna happen in one day? You crazy and you smell like wet. What are you talking about? Who's your daddy? My daddy is not here. He's in another town. He went to the grocery store, said he was going to get some milk. He never came back. No, I'm playing. My dad is completely whatever. He's definitely not in Washington. I can tell you that. I don't have a daddy in Washington. Unlike Maga, Maga seems to have a daddy in Washington. It's weird. It's a weird thing. I don't understand it. There's a lot of Maga who seems to have a dad in Washington. I don't get it. Someone tell me what's going on. Trump is saving our country. I know you're only a youngster. Pay attention. Texas Repo. I know youngster is supposed to be pejorative, but guess what? I probably have far more experience and far more knowledge on the political landscape than you would actually be led to believe on. MAGA is extremely uneducated, and you were exactly right, Neptune. Oftentimes, more times than not, the same party that used to tout facts don't care about your feelings now conveniently are the ones who decided to throw facts right out the window. It's all about feelings when it comes to MAGA. That's all it is. Straw man argument. That's great. Manufacturing left in the 80s take a decade to return. It's going to take a decade to return. That's great. Joe Biden was trying to bring back manufacturing. I can tell you right now, doing these tariffs and starting a trade war is absolutely not going to bring back manufacturing in the United States. It's going to cease all operations. Nobody's going to do nothing. And so that's what's going to happen. And then you're going to see a recession, potentially even a depression. But yeah, you can see right here, J.D. Vance is feeling that pressure going on right now from the economy, and he's trying to make up for it by saying President Trump's economic policies are simple. So you invest in and create jobs in America, you'll be rewarded. Not really, because guess what? When the other countries that you're exporting to decide to levy a tariff against the United States, that's when you're going to have issues. Uh-oh. My CPU usage is high. What's going on here? Am I lagging real bad? Let's see. That was weird. I had like a little spurt. Okay. So anyways, you can see here, President Trump's economic policies so that was J.D. Vance. Let's go on to the next one here. This was Donald Trump. Ignore this date. Okay, this date isn't important because, we don't look at the past, right? Stock markets are crashing. Job numbers are terrible. We are heading toward World War III, and we have two of the most incompetent leaders in history. This is not good, except this is what he said about Joe Biden, and how accurate is this now? We can look at exactly how this is with... this is exactly what's going on right now in the United States. This is hysterical to me. Absolutely hysterical to me to see this. Donald Trump doesn't get it. He doesn't understand that he is the one that's crashing the stock market now. I wonder if he would hold the same sentiment here. But we already know how MAGA is going to be. We already know how MAGA is going to be because we can look at some of the things they stated here. In this case, we had Mila Joy. You can kind of see my quote here, so don't spoil it. Saying my grocery bill, this was from October of 2024, so just right before the election. And she spammed this, by the way, quite a bit. My grocery bill is $400. My electric bill is almost $280. It's nearly $100 to fill up my tank in Washington State. My health insurance is almost $450 a month. I don't give a F about Trump's personality or if he has 34 felony counts. I need to survive. That's the before, and we're seeing this a lot with MAGA, right? This is what they were saying before. This is what they were screaming about before. Here's the now. I didn't vote for eggs. Though lower egg prices would be nice, I actually voted for Trump to burn the entire corrupt system to the ground and begin again with something better. Why did you vote for Trump? What a 360 there. We have completely turned. And this is what's happening with MAGA. They are now conveniently forgetting all about what they said prior to the election. And now what they're doing is they're just kind of making excuses for Trump, right? They're like, Trump, sometimes it happens. Inflation just happens, guys. Listen, it's normal. Now it's normal. Pretty crazy how that happens, right? So again, what we're heading towards right now is an economic recession, if not a depression. Donald Trump has already tanked the stock market, as we saw with some of the numbers that Rand Paul provided. I believe these are just daily numbers. So we could see where we've dropped almost 4% in one day. Astronomical here. I believe we've dropped almost 4 to 5 percentage points in a lot of cases. So again, this is insane. Donald Trump's And the problem about this is that markets respond negatively to when they can't predict what's going to happen. When a company can't predict whether or not they're going to have to pay for more inventory, they're going to try to stock up. They're going to try to hold down their cash more. And that's what we're seeing. People cannot predict what's going to happen. And because of that, it creates chaos, it creates uncertainty, and then we get to a recession. So that's where we're going. My stocks are great. Yeah, okay, we'll see how great they are in the next couple of months. Again, I cannot give any kind of advice. We'll see how you're doing. Let me know in the next couple of months. I guarantee you it's probably not going to be Doing too great. I taught a girl how to run heavy machinery and got a pat on the back from the other dudes. Times are changing. Yeah, random. I mean, again, nothing problem having some females over there getting on a forklift or anything. No problem with that. Male or female, I don't care. Biden ran our country into the ground. Now you want him to repair the damage? Biden did not run our economy into the ground. This is the problem with you, Maga. Y'all don't research. Y'all stopped researching 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even 8. Donald Trump ended up handing Joe Biden a terrible economy, handing over 2 massive spending packages, spent over $8 trillion on our deficit, and then decided Joe Biden was left saying, how do I fix this? And what he ended up doing is leaving a lot of this to Congress, saying, Congress, you need to act. And that's where we got the CHIPS Act. That's where we got the Inflation Reduction Act. That's where we got the Infrastructure Act. And that's where we got the American Rescue Plan at the very, 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 very beginning of his presidency. Now, keep in mind, inflation did go up to about 6 to 9%, I believe, in 2022. Guess where it ended to? It ended when Joe Biden left office about 2 to 3%. He reined in the economy. Joe Biden reined in the economy. Keep in mind, by the way, the stock market reached 32 new record highs throughout 2024. Throughout 2024, from the very, very beginning to the end. That was Joe Biden's economy. Donald Trump, in just 1 month in office, has managed to do this right here. That is what Donald Trump managed to do in 1 month. Joe Biden managed to rein in an economy probably faster than we've ever seen before. Even faster than Obama with the 08 recession. Or 08 crisis, whatever you want to call it. MAGA wants tax cuts for the rich, as long as women don't have rights over their own body. Yeah, that's what MAGA wants. MAGA wants to do tax cuts, even though we have insane amounts of spending going on right now. And keep in mind, too, they're already looking at, I believe it was the Ways and Means Committee. They want the Ways and Means Committee to cut $800 billion. The only way they can do that is by cutting Social Security and Medicare. So what we're seeing here is they want to give tax cuts to the rich. That's going to lower tax revenue. It's only going to further exacerbate this issue. And what we're going to have is, again, a recession. I'm telling you guys, I see it happening. I see it happening in the next couple of months or so. We are heading towards probably some very tough economic times. And the only way that we're going to course correct this is if Donald Trump provides some kind of certainty, something. Because right now, he's going month to month with these tariffs. And every single month he does this, either have the tariffs or don't have them. Quite frankly, at this point, you're better off just leaving them in place. If that's what you're going to do, leave them in place. And keep in mind, MAGA sat there. And this is the funny thing about it. All I heard for the past 6-7 months was, oh, we are going to put in tariffs. The tariffs are going to pay for themselves. It's going to bring American jobs back. Donald Trump hasn't kept tariffs in place for more than 2 days. He hasn't kept them in place. And MAGA ran on. They're like, oh, yeah, tariffs are going to be great. Tariffs are going to be great. Donald Trump hasn't kept them in place. And everything that he's gained from these tariffs, from these little hockey puck moves, is he's gained almost essentially nothing. Almost essentially nothing. Everything that he got from Canada and Mexico earlier on, about a month ago, that was already in place. The deal with Canada for like $150 billion, that plan was already in place back in December. And the same thing here. The same thing with Mexico, right? They're already going to send 10,000 troops to the border, and you got 10,000 troops. So you've essentially gained nothing, and at this point, you've lost more than you've gained. You've absolutely destroyed the economy. You've got record job losses that are not due in part to Donald Trump cutting federal workers. These are all generally private sector workers. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Hoover did what Trump is doing now before the Depression. Exactly, Ralph Perry. You're 100% correct. I tell people this. Look at what happened in the 20s. And I believe it was Hoover. I think you're exactly right, Ralph. In the 20s, we became essentially an isolationist country. And then right before the Depression hit, it just tanked and we lost everything. Trump made Trudeau cry on live TV. That should tell you something. I didn't see any tears from Trudeau, but maybe he did. But I think Trump did one thing that no other president has done. He's unified Canada more than ever. He literally closed the border overnight after Dems claiming they need Congress. What do you mean he closed the border overnight? No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Trump didn't close the border overnight. You're going to point to the numbers of a reduction in encounters? That's cool. Didn't close the border. I didn't see any closures. Then put her up better presidential candidates next time. Here's the problem, Tammy. Here's the problem with that. I think that Donald Trump won the propaganda war. This is the problem with Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. I will admit, Kamala Harris ran to the center. You guys may not agree with it. You might think that Kamala Harris was the next communist. That's not what happened. Kamala Harris was probably one of the most moderate Democrats that we have had in the past probably 20 years. More than Obama, and well, maybe not more than Obama, a little bit similar to Obama. But the problem is she was tied to Joe Biden. There was no easy way to address it about the economy because the perception of the economy was that it was in a disarray. And anything if Kamala Harris were to come out and say, guys, listen, I know your pockets are tight, but the economy is good, they're not going to believe her. Americans vote with this right here. They vote with their wallet. Okay? And we saw this across the world, by the way. A lot of incumbents around the world ended up losing. So what we're seeing here in the United States is no different. Donald Trump had the upper hand when it came to propaganda, and he just did better in that regard. I think Kamala Harris really should have appealed more to her base. The base was there. Donald Trump only won by 1.5%. 1.5%. Could you imagine if she just appealed a little bit more to the left? A little bit more, and turned out the numbers that Joe Biden turned out. If the left turned out in the way that they did for Joe Biden, we would have had an excellent run. But they didn't. She did not energize the base enough. And that's the problem. Right now, they're saying that Kamala Harris would be the best candidate to run next. I don't think that Kamala Harris would be the best, but I mean, if polling is to stay true to it, maybe. But I would say probably someone like a Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, someone like that. I just think that's going to be the next best route. Thank you for that subscription, Roger Arms. By the way, guys, we need some more likes in here. Okay, we got 20 likes and we got 267 people in here. Please hit that like button. Okay, if you like the stream, hit the like button. Let's get it out there more. We're gonna do some more React Andy content here in a minute, but I'm just kind of chatting with you guys. She's done turn her own allies against us, and that's so sad. What are you talking about, Bad Mad? You're talking about she's done turn her own allies against us. I'm not sure if you're referring to her alienating like the pro-Palestinian movement or not. I'm not sure if that's exactly it. Just stop. You're with your lying propaganda. Nobody's buying the lies anymore. Listen. Okay, you know what? Here, I'll pull this up. I got to pull it up here. Let me show you this. Here you go. I'm gonna leave that up there for you because I know facts don't care about your feelings. You see this right here? What is this? There's a 48% disapproval and 47.9 approval. By the way, keep in mind, Joe Biden actually had a higher approval rating at this particular point in time in his presidency. So Donald Trump is doing worse than Joe Biden at this point in time in his presidency. Yep, so looking pretty good. But I'm going to leave this up here for all the people saying, stop with your lies, nobody's buying the propaganda. Seems like a lot of people are buying into the fact that Donald Trump ran on lowering grocery prices, and he's done everything but lower grocery prices. So let's keep that up there, just for the people back. How's the polls worked out during the election? The polls worked out about right. I think there was about a 1.5. There was about a close 1 to 2% split. I believe it was a very, very close percentage going into the election, and it was about a margin of error of about 2 to 3%. So it was very, very close. And I believe I don't remember. Nate Silver had a pretty close eye on that one, but I think Nate Silver, their way takes in a lot of aggregates and stuff like that. Remember last time when Kamala was about to win in a landslide? That's polls right. So that. Yeah, I think that Kamala Harris was poised, it looked like, at some point to win. Now, was it? Now, here's the funny thing about this. And Maga kind of pretzels himself into this argument. They say that Donald Trump won by a landslide by a 1.5% margin. If that's the case, then are you willing to admit that Joe Biden won by a landslide in 2020? Would you be willing to admit that? No, you're not. You're not going to be willing to admit that. She was never poised to win. She was definitely poised to win. But yeah. You are wrong. Bye. Okay. Bye. Yeah, because people voted for him thinking he'd fix it in 2 months. You must think people are actually. Okay. So the problem is that you guys constantly move the goalposts here, right? So first it's going to be 1 month, and then it's going to be 6 months, and then it's going to be a year, and then 2 years, and then 3 years, and then 4 years. And then you're going to say, and I've actually seen this where people are saying Donald Trump needs 8 years to fix the Biden economy, even though the Biden economy was pretty much soft landed. It landed really softly. And yet they're saying Donald Trump needs 8 years to fix the economy. It's hysterical to me. It's actually comical to me. It's comical. Trump stated it would take approximately 1 year to get the prices down. Well, right, Bill. That's the kind of funny thing about it, right? Donald Trump said that on day one. You can pull up the clips. I'll try to look it up for you guys if I can. Where he said on day one, I will lower grocery prices. Day one. It's now, what, day 30? I'm not the one who made that promise. Kamala didn't make that promise. Trump made that promise. He said he was going to end the war in Ukraine on day one. That didn't happen. But there's one thing that Donald Trump got right. He said it. He said, I would love to be a dictator on day one. Or for a day, right? Was it for a day? Yeah. No, he didn't. He didn't say that. Hey, you know what? Let's pull this up. Let's pull it up because you don't believe me. Let's pull it up. All right. Let's see. Get ready. Trump lower grocery prices day one. I believe it was in August. Let's look it up. August. Let's see. Where is it? Where is it? I got it here. I gotta find it here. Oh, here we go. Here we go. All right. That was easy. I don't know why I got high CPU usage. That's interesting. All right, here. Here we go. Ready? Everybody listening, ready? You ready? Ready for this? Watch this. Keep this up here. Make sure I turn this down a little bit.
I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one. We will rapidly defeat inflation. And I went on groceries. It's a very simple word, groceries. Like almost, who uses the word? I started using the word, the groceries. Starting the day I take the oath of office, I will rapidly drive prices down and we will make America affordable again. I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
Hey, who turned on subscribers only mode? Hey, don't do that. Whoever did that, don't do that. Mods, don't do that. Keep that open to everyone, please. I don't mind the chat. I don't mind it. Keep it going. All right, so there you go, guys. You can hear there where I get what y'all are doing. But here you go. Thank you, Pam. I don't mind don't do that. Don't do that again. It's fine. So.
We will wrap.
But what was that, guys? What was that was said?
I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one. We will wrap.
I will immediately bring down prices starting on day one. You heard that right. Thank you, Miss Mandy. I appreciate it. All right. So right here, immediately on day one. Immediately on day one. That is crazy. Starting on day one. Glad I had already subscribed. Not a problem, Pam. Welcome in, by the way, Pam Bondi. I will immediately lower prices on day one. That's crazy. I'm going to leave this up here because this is about accurate right now, right? Donald Trump taking out the trash. More like this is crazy to me. We'll play it again just for the people in the back.
I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one. We will rapidly defeat inflation. And I went on groceries.
I won on groceries. I won on groceries. Doesn't really sound like that now, does it? So I'm going to leave this picture up. And this is the funny thing about it, guys. You guys heard that. And yet you still have Maga that come in and sit there and believe that Donald Trump didn't say that he was going to bring down groceries on day one. He said it. There it is. Plain as day. So all of you MAGA out there who said that's not true, that's not correct, that's not what he said. But that's exactly what he said. That's exactly what he said. Day one groceries. Where are my grocery prices going down? They've gone up. The stock market is declining. That is insane to me. That is absolutely insane to me to see that. So, yeah, I just think it's hysterical to me. So, yeah, there you go. There you have it. Prices of eggs are going down and everything else. Give me 1 second here. We're about to react to some Sam Cedar. Get that going through there. All right. Look up what MAGA means in Japanese. MAGA. What does MAGA mean in Japanese? Let's pull this up. Let's pull up Sam Cedar. We're going to watch a little bit of Sam Cedar and react to this a little bit. But all you MAGA, it's just crazy to me. It's crazy to me. I'm not MAGA. No one believes it. It's hyperbole. It means work on it day one. Is he going to walk into Walmart with stickers? Come on, let's get honest. See, this is the problem with it. It's always hyperbole. This is the problem with MAGA right now. MAGA consistently sits there. MAGA consistently sits there and argues and says, oh, well, he didn't mean day one. He meant 1 month. He meant you need this decoder to talk to these MAGA supporters. Those who run for like this, these people who argue like this are the problem. Let's be very clear. They're the problem. And this is what I have an issue with. I don't have a problem with typical run-of-the-mill people who are vote Republican their entire life and they just happen to vote for Trump. But the people who sit there and run for cover saying that, well, Donald Trump meant 1 month, guys. We shouldn't believe what he says. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. So, again, this is the problem I have. And so, again, I have an issue with this, right? I have an issue with this. So, anyways, we're going to go ahead and finish watching this. If you couldn't do it day one, yes, because he's a liar. All right, let's go over here to Solo Upsource. We're going to watch a little bit of Sam Cedar taking on over 20 Trump supporters.
Xenophobic nationalism, don't you think that's better for Americans in general?
To like be xenophobic?
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me try to go through this. All right. And real quick, I hope this doesn't get... Okay. Let's go ahead and watch this. Give me 1 second. Let me get it pulled up here. All right. Hey, do me a favor, by the way, guys. Hit that like button, okay? If you have not hit the like button, please hit the like button now. All right. Let's go ahead and watch this.
My first claim is Trump's attack on DEI hides his real goal, which is to give corporations more power.
Speed it up a little bit. Hold on. Playback speed, 1.25.
All right. Sorry, son.
No worries.
All right. I think I have a slight issue with the back end of the premise. I guess Trump's attacks on DEI being a real goal to, give corporations more power. I'd rather center the conversation around the democratic, especially as conservatives, the issues that people have with DEI and why I believe Trump would, want to.
I will tell you this. I don't think if I saw this guy on the street that I would think he's a Trump supporter. I'll be honest with you. This dude hiding his power, like hiding his Trump supporter right now, for sure. You just scared all the MAGA away in one foul swoop. Yeah, pretty much Neptune. Well, the thing is what happened is Miss Mandy turned on subscriber mode and they all just went, they like departed. It's almost like it's weird because it's almost like by doing that, it's clear that these people were probably bots. I don't know, but they went away. It was crazy. I tried, man. I want a dialogue with other Americans about stuff of substance, all this hypocrisy and outlandish accusations. Well, Ferris, tell me what it is. Tell me what it is that you want to discuss. I am more than happy to discuss this with you. I think the big issue is that a lot of people don't have these discussions anymore, and they need to happen more often. They like to see your reaction. Oh, I know, Jesse, and that's okay. Look, what I do is I try to engage with them, have a little fun with them, and then like you like to take those kind of like take those MAGA out a little bit, and kind of play with them, and then be like, okay, I'll put them back up on the shelf, and then you gotta have fun with them. I don't mind. The trolls are fun to play with a little bit. All right, let's go.
Support the issues.
I'm a subscriber and I disagree with you. You point to what a guy in office has done, has an office a day has not done, and won't talk about what the other side is responsible for. So Ferris, the problem with this is that Joe Biden had a fairly good economy. That's the problem here, is the premise in and of itself that there was some kind of terrible thing that they did. Is there something that you can point to that the Democrats did? Maybe. I can point to, for example, the CHIPS Act. The CHIPS Act is a big issue because they ended up implementing the CHIPS Act, but not giving enough funding immediately. And the way that they were funding is essentially you have to pay for it and request funding back. It's a very convoluted way. So if you want me to find some kind of issue I have with the left, fine, maybe there. Again, keep in mind, I'm a liberal. I'm not a progressive, and I'm not a socialist, and I'm not a communist. We have someone in here, one of my good friends, who is a communist, but I won't say who. So that's the thing I want to say. So again, no, he did not. No, he did not what? Vote the right. Can we hear this guy's response, please, before they react? Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Is that, people are voting for him.
I mean, I'm talking about his whole attack on DEI. It's actually DEIA, sure. Right? You know that.
Right.
In government agencies. The A being for accessibility.
Right. Yeah, and I think the attack on DEI isn't an attack on people's protections. It's on the other end of the spectrum, right? Wanting to end DEI doesn't want to end protections for someone being disabled, someone being, inaccessible to get into a job. It rather wants to de-incentivize corporations to push them to hire these people on unfair bases, right?
But DEIA is not about quotas or anything like that. It is about protections for people within these organizations, or to make sure that you have different communities that have the opportunity to apply to these things.
Right.
So it can mean, within government agencies, it means things like, let's pay interns so that not only wealthy people can have their kids do internships in these agencies.
Right.
Or let's put out notices around different parts of town,
sure,
metaphorically speaking, so that people know this job exists.
Right. This is where it begins. But
so before he gets in there, I want to say this. So Ferris, you can Google the economic numbers. Look up the CPI data. Look up record high stock market numbers. There was, I believe, unemployment reached pretty low numbers, I believe, during the Biden administration. You can also look up the Infrastructure Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, things like that. To Sam Cedars' point, so what he's talking about here that I think is really interesting is the DEI thing. A lot of people think DEI, and I've started to kind of piece this apart a little bit, is that DEI means something about hiring. That's just not the case. People are hired based on their merit. There are certain things that they may have for people like DEI. They might have certain events that they may attend, do things like that. You might have certain laws that are catered to protecting minorities. Is that inherently, that stuff's been on the books since the 60s? Is that DEI? I don't think I'd call it DEI. Biden is and was obviously corrupt. They have proof, and every Democrat and half the Republicans just ignore it. I wouldn't say half the Republicans just ignore it. I think the majority of the Republican Party wants to investigate the Bidens, either secretly or openly. The problem is that Joe Biden played Uno reverse card and said, guess what? I'm going to pardon all of my family. So
this isn't the ultimate goal that conservatives have an issue with. Conservatives don't.
But I want to keep this in mind. Joe Biden pardoned himself I believe himself and Hunter Biden for federal offenses over the past 10, 12 years. But the thing about that is that they can still investigate him for any kind of state crimes. Pardons do not apply to state crimes, guys. Pardons do not apply to state crimes. They can still investigate Joe Biden or Hunter Biden if they so wish at the state level. They did that with Trump. That's exactly what they did with Trump.
Have an issue with trying to spread job applications to poorer communities.
Well, then why rescind DEIA requirements in government agencies?
Because the problem with DEIA is there may not be like perceived actual number quotas, but that's what it devolves into, and especially with corporations.
Do you have the evidence?
Yep, there you go. Sam Cedar just said, do you have the evidence? That MAGA doesn't have the evidence. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just assuming like this is the case. This isn't the case. Where do they have this? Because here's the thing. If they are hiring somebody based on immutable characteristics that are protected by the Civil Rights Act, I believe it is, then they can get in trouble for that. But where's the evidence? Where's the evidence for this?
Of that?
I mean, sure, we can look at corporations that are government agencies that are hiring people on not true, proper bases. We can even look at.
That's such a vacuous statement. We can look at government agencies that are hiring, but that's not evidence. You're not telling me that doesn't prove anything.
Any evidence that that's happening?
Yeah, even the DNC's nomination of Kamala as president this year, there was no reason to not.
Oh my God! Kamala's a DEI hire. What? Are you serious?
Nominate Kamala as she wasn't democratically selected. She wasn't.
Kamala Harris was by and far the most qualified candidate to take over after Joe Biden dropped out. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. She was. You could sit there and say Pete Buttigieg, but there would have been a lot of ground to make up. It made the most sense for Kamala Harris to take over, and she was hot. And I would say this, she was picked by the delegation, and she picked up all of this primary position. She was the best person for that position.
She didn't go through a single primary, none of these things.
So you're saying that Kamala was the vice president of the United States after the president drops out 2 months before the convention. You think that's a DEI
She wasn't
hire?
Every presidential nominee is democratically selected to be the nominee for that
Do
party,
you realize
except
there were
for
not
Kamala
even
Harris.
primaries prior to 1972
Well,
in
sure,
the Democratic
this
Party?
isn't
You don't need, Sam Seder didn't have to go there. Sam Seder didn't have to go. Did you know about that? Kamala Harris was selected by her delegates to be there. And if it was such a big issue, this is the funny thing about it. When MAGA does this, it's because they were actually kind of terrified and they were upset that Joe Biden was not the nominee because they thought, and let's be very clear, and that's surprising they still stick to this. They thought that Joe Biden dropping out meant that Kamala Harris was a formidable foe. They thought that she was actually going to be a really good opponent. And so they thought they were going to just slide on in without a challenge. And that's why Donald Trump was so upset because he was like, oh my gosh, I actually have to work for these. I live in Delaware. Trust me, Delaware is not prosecuting the Bidens. Again, you could probably find another state to investigate Joe Biden. And if you're upset, elect somebody in as a different person. We missed 4 years of Kamala developing more accents. I want to hear, oh God. She was picked for VP because Biden promised to pick a woman VP. I don't think that was the case. He might have, but I don't remember him saying that.
This isn't before 1972.
Well, I understand, but what did you think you were going to run primaries in those 2 months?
Well, sure,
Joe Biden should have dropped out even 3 years ago.
Before.
And this was a big issue too. I'm going to let this play because I don't want to keep interrupting this. But this is a big issue too, is that what happened was the DNC could not change their party platform without an actual vote. And so what they did was they essentially decided to copy and paste what was Joe Biden's, like at the time Joe Biden was running. And so they just copy and pasted. And that's why you saw the big scattered thing where it was like a boilerplate, right? They're like, well, why does it say Joe Biden in here? And on the DNC platform, it's because they had to vote to change the actual platform. Anyways.
Well, sure, but even before, when Kamala was running in primary, she didn't. Okay. She wasn't the next man up. None of this. She wasn't the next person.
Well, she was the vice president,
right? Of course, but she wasn't in primaries.
Detail. But listen, aside from, I would have might have wanted a different candidate as well. But that has nothing to do with Trump rescinding orders that basically say you need to search for a wide range of candidates, not necessarily give any different benefits, but you need to make sure different communities have access to the awareness of this job.
Right, Brent. I don't think that Democrats had Republicans had a primary in 2020. I think they pretty much just carte blanche. Was there a primary in 2020? I forgot. It might have been.
You need in your office accessibility for people who have physical handicaps.
Sure.
If you have folks who identify as as trans, you need to make it at least hospitable and not. This is all.
Thank you, Ferris. I appreciate you coming in, man. Appreciate
That's what this is all
about. You're
about.
cherry picking the portions of DEI that even conservatives don't have issues. Conservatives don't have issues with making workplaces.
The whole DEI apparatus within our government was a function of doing exactly what I said. Had nothing to do with quotas or
it is unfortunate that those things get taken out, and there might not have been specific numerical.
It's unfortunate those things get taken out. Okay, if it's unfortunate, then why are you trying to take it out? You don't have to take them out.
Trying to take out.
It's trying to take out people getting jobs that don't deserve those jobs. People getting pushed into positions they have no qualification.
There is no evidence of what you just said happening in these government agencies.
That's not true. I mean, we're not allowed to sit here and have notes and numbers to pull up for you. You can't.
Give me one example.
You can't ask me to pull up numbers.
You knew coming into this that you were going to be debating. So, like, you should have done your research. This is the problem. Is like, oh, I don't have what you expect. Yeah, that's kind of how this works. Notice how Sam Seder was over there saying, look at the 1970s. You should probably do your research before coming in here.
When I'm not able to sit here and look on a computer for you, but these are the problems that conservatives.
Sorry, you've been voted out. Please return to your seat.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, he doesn't have any examples whatsoever. That's the problem.
See ya.
Okay, so I think the roots issue with DEI isn't.
Yo, none of these people look like they'd be. I would be surprised if these were like, I would not pick any of these people out as Trump supporters. This is trippy. This is so trippy to me. Anyways.
It's what the previous gentleman was trying to point. Conservatives aren't necessarily have issues with those things like accessibility to people who might need help. The issue is, and I kind of refer to
I can explain the MAGA guy's emotional argument if you're genuinely interested in solving this party war. I can explain. What do you mean, Guild of Gamers? I can explain the MAGA guy's emotional argument. Are you suggesting like the DEI thing is being an emotional argument, not like one found in evidence? Anyways, I'm gonna let this play through. I need to get through a few dialogue trees here.
This before, when you have agencies and systems, what tends to happen when you have government overreach, big government, is that agencies and systems get abused. And I think unequivocally, DEI was heavily abused in practice. It was great in theory. It's idealistic, which is sure is fine, that a lot of people can get behind, but it was abused in a lot of ways. When you have actors, like we're in California right now, when you have actors, white male actors who are being told, we do not want white men, we're not gonna cast any white men, we only want this particular kind of gender, race, right? That is an abuse of a system. It's no longer fair.
Is he referring to them like casting people that were like traditionally white as now being like black? Like, for example, I think like they did what, Snow White or something like that, and then like Wicked or something. So, this is so silly to me. This is so silly to me. Why? Like, do we want to talk about all the times that Joe Walsh, what's his name? Not Joe Walsh. The What is a Woman or whatever guy from Daily Wire. Are we gonna talk about that?
But more about just perpetuating one act.
Yes, he is sick of the toxic TikTok community. Essentially, there's crazy MAGA and crazy Dems on TikTok. They're what? Okay, you do think Matt Walsh? Thank you, JB. Appreciate it. Yeah, Matt Walsh.
Aspect of visual compelling aspects, because at the end of the day, what's going to
happen? And that too,
is
Brent. Right?
Companies are going to say, well, we want to look the most diverse,
Okay,
and what that is it's moral grandstanding. Is that because we have more black women, we sell better soda, like that.
I got you.
That is not.
Well, that's getting a little far afield from what Trump's DEI orders are. But I can tell you, as somebody who was a sitcom actor in the '90s, I would walk into a room and everybody I would see would look like me, and I was doing a second position, which doesn't even exist anymore, where you do 2 pilots a year, and I was looking around basically every part of television when I was a kid. I was centered in some fashion. It was either this is about my mother, or this is about my father, or someone like me was centered. So, we can argue as to whether or not Hollywood is overcorrected in some fashion. But on a governmental level, the DEIA directives that agencies were following for the past 4 years is nothing. I don't know what you mean by abuse on it, but there is no evidence that it was an affirmative action program in those instances. It was about anti-discrimination. You cannot discriminate against these people, and you want to open up opportunities for a broad swath of people. Again, the internship is like one of the most material things that exist there, where the idea that you need to pay interns, and that's important because you want.
I had to do my obligatory stop just to make sure. I'm sorry I interrupted in the minute. I just had to do it and provide a little bit of commentary.
Low-income people to have the same sort of like opportunities to see these things as wealthy people. My kids can maybe afford to do an internship for the summer instead of going to get a job.
So I want to respond to this. So the thing that Simceder did here that was great is he reeled it back in. So this guy's trying to talk about Hollywood, and he's like, that's great, but that's not what Donald Trump's trying to do. And like he said, this is all about accessibility and has everything to do with like anti-discrimination things, which anti-discrimination is not inherently DEI, which is absurd to suggest such, right? A lot of these programs, governmental programs, have to do with anti-discrimination. And in fact, the Equal Employment Act or whatever it was that Donald Trump rescinded specifically pertained to sexual orientation and gender identity. Keep in mind that reverted, when he removed that, it reverted the Civil Rights Act, I believe it was Title IX or whatever, back to the original meaning. Obama put in orientation and gender identity into the EEO. But when Donald Trump rescinded that language is not in the Civil Rights Act anymore. So federal contractors technically could be discriminated against based on orientation or gender identity because Donald Trump rescinded the EO for that.
We're talking about two different things.
Well, but I'm talking about Trump's DEIA rescission is a way of basically driving people out of these agencies, making
You're saying Trump specifically, and I understand why you're saying Trump, but I think the American people
he's
as a whole
president.
have kind of, and I won't say whole because obviously it's not 100%, but a majority of the American people have kind of rejected DEI because, again,
I don't think a majority of Americans know what DEIA is.
That may be the case, but again, my point is we're talking about abuse of the system.
They don't know.
What we're talking about is not necessarily what was happening. What people were seeing were, hey, because you're white, you can't do this. And liberals like to do this thing where they create systems and then they created the whole idea of woke and then they backed away and then conservatives say woke and then they're like, we don't know what woke is.
He
they
said this guy
DEI.
doesn't look like he would be a Trump
Biden
supporter.
literally said Kamala Harris is being chosen because she is a black woman, and then all of a sudden Democrats for the rest after that said that's not why she was chosen, even though Biden literally said that. And then we have this cognitive dissonance as if we're not living in reality.
Yeah, Jose Bravo. The crazy thing about that is Latino MAGAs are pretty wild because they voted really, quite frankly, against their interest, right? I mean, assuming that they have any family members, Latinos that have any family members that are, either undocumented or even, quite frankly, some of the dreamers. Some of the federal programs that Donald Trump is trying to get rid of like federal loan programs for DACA recipients. I believe is what it is. It's either DACA recipients or visa holders or one of those two. But he has gone after DACA. So people forget about that. Donald Trump went after DACA. Donald Trump tried to denaturalize certain citizens, things of that nature. People don't remember that, but he did that in his first administration. DEI is wool over sheep's eyes as an issue because the international reputation of the U.S. was getting destroyed by Israel. I personally think that sexuality should be a private thing, not put out in public for everyone to know about. Don't ask, I don't care. Well, the problem about this community is that a lot of what's been going on recently is that MAGA has really, I've heard more about DEI over the past 3 months, 2-3 months, than I've heard over the past 8 years. It's ridiculous. There's never been this much discussion about DEI than there's been by the Republicans. It's insane.
Biden wanted to make sure that there was that there was an opportunity for a black woman to be his vice president.
So why did
Hey, real quick, we got 265 people in here. Please make sure you hit that like button, okay? If you like the stream and you like everything that's going on, hit that like button. Let's get it out there to more viewers.
Democrats move away from that and say, no, it wasn't because she was a black woman. So my point is that
it's not because she's a black woman.
But that's what they said. I can agree that it's not because she's a black woman, but that's what they said. Why did they say that then?
No, because there are plenty of black women, right? Like he could have picked anybody, but he picked specifically her. You're positing the idea that there wasn't a black woman who would have been qualified for that position.
No,
and I don't believe that.
No, that's not what conservatives aren't saying that there aren't, because again, even in the Republican Party right now and in Trump's cabinet, there are people of color that Democrats pretend don't exist, like J.D. Vance's wife, and
J.D. Vance's wife is not in the cabinet.
No, but if J.D. Vance was a Democrat, his wife would be lauded all over everything because of her.
No, the problem with this is that, quite frankly, I've heard almost nothing about J.D. Vance's wife, nor would she have if she were a Democrat. Would there have been any difference? Again, this is insane. Yeah.
I'm not, listen, I'm not here to defend the Democrats' choice on every policy, but there is one party in this country that is identitarian. There is one party that is represented and it is homogenous, and it is the Republican Party. 85% of Republicans are white. That's just the reality of it.
So does that
Some
mean
people
that?
don't necessarily have a problem with that.
But here's the thing. You said even if let's just say, okay, that's true. 80% of Republicans are white. Does that mean that they're less moral? That they can't run an effective government? What does race have to do? What does race have to do? Hold on. What does
Donald Trump didn't have to say.
What does race have to?
All he's done is wait. No, I know he's not doing this. He sat there and was like, well, Kamala Harris was voted because she was black. And I was like, what does race have to do with it? What does race have to do with it? You brought it up. This is the whole argument. You came in here talking about Hollywood and talking about how, Kamala Harris is the first African American. You're the one who brought, and then you mentioned about Usha Vance. You brought up race, not Sam Cedar. This is gaslit. They could pick and should have picked any other. No, I think RL, you're wrong. Kamala Harris is and undoubtedly one of the best candidates to pick for that ticket. She was the most qualified person. You talk about merits. She was the most qualified person for that position. Given the fact that she also inherited his war chest, given the fact that she had kind of a good idea as running as VP, she was the most sensible pick.
President's going to be a white male. Because they all knew it was going to be.
No, this is the premise of DEI. What does race have to do with running an effective government? What does race have to do? If let's say DEI on the micro level.
I will tell you right now.
DEI on the micro level at McDonald's.
I'll tell you.
Am I going to get better nuggets?
Listen, I'll ask you a question.
If the cashier is black or white, what does that have to do with anything?
I'll tell you what it is. First of all,
this is again him trying to make this argument that they're somehow hiring people based on the fact of the race. This is an act. This is totally not true. This is the thing, is he's like trying to sit here and say that they're hiring people based on their race. That's not what's being done. That's not what's being done. It's constant with these people. DEI. They think DEI means that they see somebody, they see this person, they're like, hey, I'm going to take this person. I don't care what qualifications they have, this gender or this trait. It's crazy to me.
DEIA means that if you come into this agency or corporation, you're not going to be discriminated against because you don't look like everybody else, or you don't have the same physical abilities as everybody else, or you may require handles on the bathroom or whatever it is. That's what DEIA does. But does it make a government better if there's a broad representation of the people it's supposed to govern? Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong.
Saint Oned said she did nothing as vice president. Everybody's on JD Vance about what he's going to do and not do or has done. He's just got there. Kamala had 4 years to pick curtains and table runners. That's incorrect, because all I had heard from Maga was how she was the border czar. Funny that people don't talk about that, because she was also one of the, she cast the most tie-breaking votes in Congress, not to mention that she also went down to the Southern Triangle. I believe it's Honduras, Ecuador, and another country. I can't think of the name. But anyways, all three of those to try to reduce immigration from those countries. And guess what she ended up doing? If you look at the statistics, we saw reduced immigration from those countries that she had to do. So again, it's wild to me that people sit there and go, oh, Kamala Harris is so inadequate. She just sat there and kicked her feet up and didn't do nothing. No, she did quite a bit as a VP. And unlike JD Vance, she's not ruining foreign relations like JD Vance did with Zelensky, which was embarrassment.
Regardless of DEI, don't we already have things in our Constitution that protects people's rights, protects people?
No.
We don't?
No.
Do we or do we not?
No, we do not. Tell me what protects people from discrimination in housing and in work and hiring or getting loans? It's all statutes. It's all statutes. And in these government agencies, there was nothing except for that order. That's why Trump just rescinded it.
I'm gonna tap out because I think someone else has a better can defend that point specifically better than me.
All right,
this man, he said I'm done with 8 minutes left. That's at 11x.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Okay. When it comes to DEI, essentially, if a person was not racist, he would hire someone regardless, right? So why would we need a policy to protect a person if we've moved past racism? So would you consider yourself racist?
Wait, are you suggesting we've moved past racism?
Would you consider yourself racist?
I consider myself, and sometimes I think we all practice.
Sam should have picked up on that. I would have pushed back so hard on that. He's coming into this with saying that like Sam Cedar is somehow like taking this position that we've moved past racism. Sam hasn't said that. In fact, a lot of people would say we haven't moved past that. That's the whole reason we have anti-discrimination laws. But Sam should have picked up on that more.
Like some form of, white supremacy. I think actually.
Agree with you, WNN. It's about accessibility too.
Well,
that's what Sam was saying.
So,
DEIA.
I guess going to the LGBT topic, it seems like it's very prevalent for you as an issue.
Well, it seems like a big issue. I mean, the Republican Party spent literally hundreds of millions of dollars demonizing trans people.
Yep.
Well, the reason why they've done something like that, and I think you're misconstruing the narrative, they haven't demonized them. They simply want protections back for their own children, because children are being stripped away from
Who's
their
their
parents.
own children? Wait, children are being stripped away from their parents?
Yes, due to AB 954, they've now included gender identity as a premise to remove and strip parental rights for children who maybe they are rejecting their gender ideology.
So, but you'd be okay with parents who agree?
Wait. What was that? Was that AB 954? Is that what he said?
For children who included gender identity as a premise to AB 954, they've now included gender identity as a.
I'm gonna pause this. I want to fact check him in real time. AB 954. I'm gonna look this up real quick. AB. See, this is the problem. I bet it's like one of those things where it was like a newscast thing. Let me do it. AB 954, California Legislature. Existing law establishes the jurisdiction of the juvenile court, which may adjudge children to be dependents of the court under certain circumstances, including when the child suffered or there is a substantial risk that the child will suffer serious physical harm or a parent fails to provide the child with adequate food, clothing, shelter, or medical treatment. Existing law authorizes the court. So again, here we go. I will share this for everyone to see. Didn't get their facts right. You can see that right here. Existing law, as specified, existing law establishes the grounds for removal of a dependent child from the custody of the child's parent or guardian, requires the court to order removal of social work. So in other words, if the child is at risk for serious physical harm, they can get rid of him. That's all it is. So again, this is another one of those freaking takes where they just ended up trying to this is ridiculous.
To remove and strip parental rights for children who maybe they are rejecting their gender
identity. Yeah, they're misconstruing it abstract,
with
exactly.
Parents who agree with their children's doctors to provide
exactly. Bring in the receipts, Jose. This is ridiculous.
I do not agree with that. Do you?
I believe that parents and doctors can make those decisions with the kids.
If a child can't smoke, drink, or have sex before the age of 18, they should not be able to consent to a sex change. Now, in terms of a DEI initiative, the reason why there's military bans on trans women and trans men
I like Trump,
is because
Trump is out
they
there,
do
man.
not have
He speaks
the ability
and does.
to cooperate at a mental capacity when they're constantly undergoing hormone treatment, as well as depression pills, as well as different mood stabilizer pills. And so when you go out to combat, do you really think you're going to bring an ice cooler pack with your whether that be hormone, estrogen, or whatever it may be, while you're about to shoot someone of the opposing war?
Well, the executive orders that Trump gave were DEIA orders that had to do with agencies that have nothing to do with the military.
Yes, they do. Yes, they absolutely do.
The FDA, they just.
Nick Sanchez, the fact that both sides will jump to the conclusion that because you have different views that you're one side or the other is nuts. This is unfortunately, the hyperpolarization that we've encountered within our country for the past 8 years. I would probably say that it started closer to Obama, and then it kind of got really bad under Trump, and then it just continued to split massively. But what Sam Cedar said earlier was very true, that there is kind of this bell curve, if you will, where the Democrats tend to be more flat, and Republicans tend to be like a mountain almost. So it's just the way our country's heading towards.
Invoke the ability of the Air Force to teach Air Force members about the Tuskegee Airmen. Well, what are we talking about here?
Okay, well,
honestly, they're rewriting history.
Yep.
Well, that's your perspective, right?
No, it is.
If a person...
Tuskegee Airmen, we can all agree, existed, right?
Just listen to this. If you were racist, right, and you were an employer, and if you wanted to absolutely be racist and exercise that, you would. I think DEI sort of prevents people from seeing the reality. If a person truly wanted to hire you based on your intellect, based on your skill set, they would. DEI essentially provides tax cuts for the end of the year when you create your tax returns. They give you a tax credit for hiring someone who is black or a person of color. I don't know if you knew.
In these agencies?
In agencies and private.
I've seen this.
They don't get tax cuts for hiring people.
And the other thing I
this is to protect people from discrimination.
The other thing I want to kind of state here is that I've realized that a lot of the times with the liberals is that you guys push for example, for DEI and people of Latino or Hispanic descent. And a lot of the times what you don't realize is you're actually doing more harm than good by putting them in positions where you make them believe that it's based on the color of their skin. It's based on...
DEIA does not... is not.
It's based on merit. DEI emphasizes color, skin color, physical attributes.
It says that the people who work in your agency. It's
when Trump came, according to Stormy, Trump has conservatives and revisionist history tell old as time. Exactly, Jose.
About anti-discrimination.
Discrimination against what?
Against people who may have different cultural mores, may have different.
But that's irrelevant to a job, right? It should be based on merit. And that is the emphasis
here. People get hired as a merit, but if you're...
They keep coming back to this. Can they not sit there and understand? And this is the problem, is they're circling around this idea that DEI is all about hiring people just based on the characteristics of their immutable characteristics. That's not what they're doing. And this is what Sam Cedar is trying to say. It's like they're literally, and I don't want to say they're talking past each other. Sam Cedar is right here. This guy is just patently wrong. And what he's doing is this guy's not understanding that DEI practices have nothing to do with the hiring situation. And then he made that crazy name or crazy claim that they, get tax breaks. The federal government somehow gets tax breaks for hiring people of a certain race. Okay.
If the DEIA, I'm talking about Trump's rescission of these orders on these agencies.
If you received a tax cut as an employer, wouldn't you hire a person of color?
Dude,
if you could pay them less?
Listen, we're talking about government agencies that do not get tax cuts. Government agencies.
They don't.
No,
yes, they do. They absolutely do.
I'm talking about
every private and public sector gets tax cuts when you hire a person of color.
Government agencies don't pay taxes. Government agencies are funded by the government.
That is not true. That is not true. And you know what? I think the whole juxtapose of this entire conversation.
What month is this?
This is January.
Okay, so we can agree on.
Sam, I watched this part right here, and I was like, Sam was like, what have I done? Sam is like, why am I here? Why did I do this? They're not working within the same facts. And that's why this guy doesn't even get it, that Sam Cedar is insulting him, that he's like, what month are we in? Okay, just want to make sure we're based in reality here. What's the goal of DEI? Strip down all the overcomplicating, and how is that goal achieved? Keep it simple. A Pharisee, the best way to put it is essentially, and like Sam Cedar is explaining, DEI has in the government, and that's what Sam Cedar's trying to keep this focus around, has majority of it to do with the fact of anti-discrimination. That's quite frankly what it is. But this guy here and a lot of the Maga here seem to think that DEI has something to do with hiring. That has nothing to do with hiring. That's just patently false.
On that, the FDA does not pay taxes. It does not get a tax cut because it doesn't pay taxes. DEIA forces them as an agency to say, if you have a job opening, you must do your best efforts to make sure that every
I like that.
part
I love
of
me a
society.
buzzword. You must do your best effort. I love that buzzword.
Okay.
DEI no, it's funny to me that they do this. To the right, yes, they use DEI as a buzzword. They think it's this very simple idea. And it's hilarious to me because he's talking about buzzwords. All I've heard from the right is about buzzwords. This guy, unironically, is triggered. Like, he's so upset that he's just been called out on this fact. He can't handle the fact that he just got called out about the government not paying taxes. And he's claiming, this guy's like, our government gets tax breaks. And Sam's like, no, they don't. And he's upset about it. That's why he's emotional like this. Oh my goodness. Why would anyone pay $10 million to want to live in America when this is the constant conversation? What do you mean, Carlos? Pay $10 million to want. Oh, I get what you're saying. You're talking about the Trump gold visa. Yeah, and keep in mind, the problem with that is that we do have a visa already in place. I forgot the name of it now off the top of my head, where you can pay $5 million into a company, or it's $800,000 if it's towards a certain qualified business to get essentially basically as an investor's visa. I mean, essentially is what it is. But you have to put like $800,000 or $5 million into a company. But it's pretty crazy. But yeah, going up to $10 million is really, really, really dumb. And the fact that he's calling it a gold visa, I don't get it.
Because you feel like you have to, you're pressured to.
Yes.
You shouldn't be pressured to hire someone based on skin color.
No, not to hire someone on skin color, but put up notice about that the job exists. Make sure that you put it in different communities so that you have as wide an application pool as possible.
And therefore you get
All
tax
right.
cuts.
All right, return to
At
your
the
seat.
end of the year when you file taxes, you get a tax cut for hiring someone who speaks
Please
a different
return to your
language or
seat.
different skin color.
You have to have taxable income. There has to be a taxable income. If the government doesn't pay taxes, they can't get a tax cut. Tax cuts don't exist on places that don't have taxable income. Well, maybe. I mean, you gotta have tax cuts, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no base. There's nothing to tax on. There's not a base. I think that's a better word. Not taxable income. A base. There's no base. Like, there's no income base.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Exactly, Brent.
How you doing?
So I want a little bit more clarification because I don't even know if we got it yet on which part.
I'm just saying this guy looks like Destiny. Just saying, okay? Like a more like put together Destiny.
Benefits corporations, like from your perspective.
So agencies, the U.S. government.
This is what happens when you
agencies,
table
the
a
vast
TV
majority
raise.
of them, what they function to do is inhibit
Exactly,
corporations from essentially
He did say that with a lot of
externalizing
conviction,
their costs
Tor.
onto society.
Sure.
So the example would be, I used it before, but it's a good one. I'm making Teflon, C8, for instance, okay? And C8 is supposed to be burned because instead of like deposited because it's a forever chemical. And I can go out and instead.
Pharisee, I'm having fun, okay? But he does kind of look like Destiny, all right? No, I'm sorry. Look, you're right. Every person I've commented on, I'm just shocked. It's kind of one of those things where like you look at somebody, you're like, that person's a MAGA supporter. Honestly, if I saw these people, I'd probably think they were probably on the left. It's just interesting because there is a certain like, people have a kind of an idea of like what a leftist or a person on the right is. So it is kind of interesting. But again, it's also California, so it probably fits the script.
It's too expensive to burn it. I'm going to dump it into a river. And the EPA comes in and says, like, you can't do that. We're going to fine you. You're not allowed to do this. But what the company is doing when they do that is they're going to take the profits that come with lowering their costs by dumping it into the river. And those costs are then borne by everybody who lives around that river. They're going to get cancer. They're going to get gastrointestinal problems, whatever it is.
Oh, stop, Nick.
Can you connect the dots for me, though? Because it sounds like we're talking about something completely different.
And so the DEIA stuff is just the beginning of demoralizing.
You're fine, Pharisee. You're fine.
These agencies and trying to wreck them from the inside. It's all part of like Russell Vote's thing, the OMB, the whole Schedule F, where they get rid of civil servants and they demoralize people and they don't want them to be able to function.
So then would you agree if this is about demoralizing? I mean, over 75 million people voted for Trump, right? He won the popular vote. Do you not think that in part, you even said yourself that Americans don't really know what DEI
Trump won
is?
barely 75 and he won like less than 40,
50%.
Okay, well, I would argue that the average American is demoralized by what they've seen, the way that the government goes about their DEI policies and the military and other organizations, not just the military.
I know, I got you, Pharisee. Hey, Pharisee, thank you for coming in. I appreciate you having an actual substantive argument. I really do appreciate it, buddy. Have a good time and hope you and your daughter enjoy that ice cream. Man, ice cream sounds good now. Kind of want ice cream. Judging someone on their appearance or skin color. On their appearance is racism? On their appearance? Okay. I mean, you can see how far you want to take that stretch. Definitely skin color, obviously, could be racism, but appearance? Maybe. Depends. Depends on how you want to stretch that. But if you want to go that route, boy. Trump's plans are to do what he has to do to get what he needs done. He'll do that. Done deal for Don. Kevin, you don't have plans, a concept of plans. Exactly. He has concepts of a plan.
Hey. Before we go any further, we use is an app let's use great arrow to S just
what would
mistake. A religious fundamentalist or a xenophobic nationalist voting for Trump was a mistake.
So just in case anybody wasn't clear, unless you're a billionaire, religious fundamentalist, or a xenophobic nationalist, voting for Trump was a mistake. This is going to get good.
Okay, so let's tackle one aspect, religious fundamentalists. What benefit would religious fundamentalists get? And also, can you define what is a religious fundamentalist?
And maybe you could say more of like a Christian nationalist.
Okay.
In this instance. But things like, the attacks on,
right,
on
drill,
trans
baby,
folks,
drill.
the attacks on a woman's right to choose, the idea that we're going to get stuff like an enhanced RFRA, which is going to mean that if you're a pharmacist and you don't want to provide birth control, you may not have to.
Don't you think you're assuming that
if you believe that public education, we should take that money and pour it into religious schools, you're gonna get a benefit out of a Trump administration.
Exactly, Faye. Skin color is melanin. You can't control that appearance. You can control makeup, clothes. Exactly. I'm not sitting here saying, "Oh, look at this guy. He's like this color." But this is the crazy thing about this is. I lost my train of thought. We'll continue watching.
Yeah, but don't you think you're assuming that the vast majority of Americans who are moderates?
What do you think you're going to get out of the Trump administration?
Economic relief. That was
what kind of economic relief? They're going to cut Social Security. You're going to have to pay for your parents. They're going to cut when they go after the agencies like they're going after, right? This is outlined in Project 2025. Russ Vought, who's going to be the OMB head, he was the OMB head the first time around. He wrote all the book on this stuff.
Okay, well, you bring up
when you cut agencies and go after them,
how they will defend
you fire all the inspector generals so that they're not being able to make sure that the agencies are working.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to keep pausing this, guys. I'm trying to go back and forth between chat and also provide some commentary. So, Nicholas, you said what I cannot understand is how they will defend them to no ends. The reason why is because of an idea called sunken cost fallacy, which basically means that you've invested so much time, so much energy, so much money into an idea or to a person that to give up that person would be like ripping your heart out of your chest. It's just like, it's something you can't do. And so that's why they defend him no end, because they've invested so much into the ideology. And this is why I say that MAGA is a cult, because the thing is that they don't understand exactly that they're drinking from the Kool-Aid jar here. It's crazy. Religious fundamentalists is like Christianic religious extremism of the 1824 Marshall case, which uses Christianic extremism of the doctrine of discovery to steal lands from. Yeah, there's that too. I appreciate that in-depth conversation. It's not something I'm burning passionate about trying to research, but yes, you are correct. Trump is more of this from other Republicans. Exactly. It will 100%, Nicholas, like a cult mentality. All right. Yeah, West hit it nailed right on the head. That's perfect. Try convincing an 80-year-old Catholic that God might not be real. Good luck.
Who do you think profits from that? It's corporations. They're going to go after agencies that make sure your food is not full of botulism, that your air is not full of mercury, that your water is not full of C8. This is what they're going to do. Agencies exist to curb corporations from externalizing their costs and privatizing their profits. So it may be cheaper for a company to dump their chemicals into a river than it is for them to dispose of it in a safe way. And so they get the profits from that, but the costs are borne by society. They're borne by...
JB, the flags are basically anytime they raise it up, that's like they have to get a majority. You can't really see it because my screen's covering it up, but there's a flag marker down at the bottom over here. And once they get a majority, right now they're at 10 out of 20, then they switch people. So
society in the form of like people get cancer. They're borne by society in terms of like we've got to do the cleanup. That's what agencies do.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
There you go.
Hey.
Hold on 1 second. Dog was going nuts. Had to make sure everything was okay.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm by myself,
okay, so
too.
I would like to
So
touch on the religious fundamentalist aspect.
Yeah.
Are you an atheist?
I'm a Reformed Jew. I don't have a strong belief in the existence of God, but I don't think that religion in and of itself is bad.
Okay, so what's wrong with religious fundamentalists? So like when you said trans rights and women's rights or something like that?
Well, the problem I have with religious fundamentalists, and really more, I guess it's really theocrats, is that they want to impose their morality that comes from their religion
100%,
on the rest
Richard.
of us. And I don't.
But morality, from your view, is going to be a preference, right? It's not morality; it's a preference.
What's
So morality without a foundation is going to reduce you to a preference.
Well, I have a foundation for my morality.
Which is what?
It's a humanist vision of what basically creates as little suffering as possible for as many people.
Okay, so you're like a consequential.
Brent, you're saying Trump tariffs are ruining the country and they don't care. That's 100% correct. Right now, they will refuse until the very end, and they'll deny and they'll deflect. They held Joe Biden to a standard that was like ridiculous. As soon as Joe Biden stepped into office, they were claiming it was Joe Biden's fault. And now when Donald Trump takes over, those tariffs that are direct, and I've told people this, Donald Trump had a perfect opportunity to really actually carry the economy forward and really look well. But he decided to do tariffs. Any MAGA who sits there and says it's Joe Biden's fault, point to the tariffs. Point to the tariffs that he caused this economy to go crazy. It's because of Donald Trump laying off federal workers that unemployment will inevitably go up. It's because of Donald Trump that unemployment will continue to go up in the private market because of uncertainty. They don't want to hire people. They're going to do a hiring freeze because they don't know what the economy is going to look like. Thus, that's how we end up going into a recession.
Utilitarian?
I don't really bother myself with being a consequentialist or a utilitarian.
It's always going to reduce you to a preference. So if you say that killing is wrong and I say it's right, you would really have no contention with that.
Well, no, I don't base my understanding of civil society on religion. And so we have a civil society. Okay. We have laws that we have decided as a society in a democratic way. And for some people, it's okay for it to be informed by their religion. That's okay.
Okay, perfect. So if tomorrow society comes together and we say, hey, trans folks don't deserve rights, you would be okay with that?
No, I would be against it, but I mean it would be
morally right under your view.
Not morally right. No. I'm not talking about morals.
Okay,
here.
So here's where I'm getting to, right? Religious foundations provide an ethical framework for one to live their life off of.
I believe you can have an ethical framework without religion.
And if we take the leftist view to its logical tail end, to its extreme view, you have low reproductive birth rates. You have a reproductive dead end, so two men together can't reproduce unless they have to take from a healthy straight couple.
We're going down some weird routes here. But I get it because he also mentioned religious fundamentalism. And again, the issue I have with that is that it's kind of getting the whole ethical and moral argument. For me, when I look at like Christians, growing up as Christian and still currently a Christian, I understand that some people will sit there and they use that faith to push their religious views into politics. And that's where I tend to have an issue, right? For example, who am I to sit there and impose my moral beliefs onto somebody else, right? I want the betterment for society. I think that's kind of the idea of utilitarianism. For me, I want the best outcome for society. And for me, I don't want to just say that my idea is right. I want the idea of everybody to come together, your morals, my morals, everybody's morals. And then we kind of find this like cohesive idea of what is good for society. So the idea of like having religious fundamentalism that is like the Bible is the only way for society to operate, I think poses a lot of issues that can really lead to discrimination in a lot of ways. So.
Religion provides this foundation where you do prioritize the nuclear family.
So do you have a problem with gay people being married?
It's not that I have a problem. I just don't see a justification for why they ought to be gay outside of it just feels good. Can you give me another justification for it?
Well, I think maybe that's the way they were born.
Okay, what about pedophiles? Are they born that way?
They may be, yeah.
Okay, so should we let a pedophile off the hook since they were born that way?
No, I think we as a society has decided.
Should implement duties to prevent them from acting on that innate urge, correct?
Well, I think between consenting adults, it's a different thing than.
Okay, so you're okay with a
children.
45-year-old dad with a 19-year-old daughter as well? Incest.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
No.
If they consent, you're okay with that?
No, I think society has also determined that it's not beneficial.
Right, there's duties and obligations that we have, so religion provides those duties.
I'm sorry to hear that, Cannon.
But also,
and exercising what you want.
I mean,
That's the thing too, Cannon. Cannon saying the pipeline that just got shut down, I lost my job. There's gonna be a lot of people that lose their jobs due to this. I think, Cannon, you're referring to the Biden administration, but that Keystone Pipeline, I'm assuming is what you might be referring to, had been shut down for a while. They didn't really do a consistent job, and I haven't heard anything about them really even opening that up again. But again, it's been shut down, I think, long before. I think Obama shut it down. I think even Trump shut it down. I remember looking into it. There's a little bit more nuance there.
well, you want to impose your religious doctrine
No,
on me,
because
and I don't want that.
you just admitted we need duties. We have responsibility as a society to keep us functioning, to keep us thriving. Your leftist view, the liberal view, doesn't provide anything besides it just makes me feel good. Religion does. So what's your argument?
What's my argument as to why I don't want
You have no
your
contention.
religion to? Well, because first of all, I don't think that you have the right to corner what God.
You're right, Jose. I see y'all in there talking about that. Yeah, I mean, the idea in the Bible was that Mary was, I believe, a teenager at the time.
God is telling us is right or wrong, and there are differences between religions.
Yeah, Faye, that's what I
And
thought.
so
The Keystone ran through the
my
native
argument
lands.
is, you know, like you're not going to keep halal or kosher, right? I mean, I don't believe that someone has a corner on religious truth. And the reason why we have a democracy is because we didn't want a king, and the kings came from the idea that their God said that they're the ones who's supposed to be king, and so. We can disagree on this. I don't want to live in a country that is ruled by religious
agree, Wolf.
And if I do, you have no issue with that.
And no. And this is why I say, under Trump, yes, you have won.
Yes.
You have a
Only
bunch
male
of
and
Christian.
female. You're right.
You have a
You
Christian
won.
nationalist.
They're so giddy. They're so giddy when they're like, yeah, we won. We won. Oh, we won, guys. We won by a landslide. Yeah, you won by 1.5%. And you won less than 50% of the vote. They're so giddy about this. This is the thing. Trump's egotistical, like, kind of ideology has permeated into the maggots. Sorry, did I say that? It's permeated into this idea, right? Of like, I've got the bigger crowd size. Oh, yeah, look at me. I won. Like, you can just see the glee. He's like, yeah, we won. Yeah, we won. He's so excited about it. Wait until they lose and they lose their mind. When they lose, they get upset to no end. They're that meme. Remember the liberal meme from like the first administration where it was like the raincoat and they're like screaming in the air thing? That's going to be them, unironically. Exactly, Jose Barrel. Dude's just talking and not really thinking. And Cannon, no, I'm Anishinaabe Indian off of Fort Berthold, North Dakota. Was not off of Fort Berthold. What's not points and off. Okay. The Bible is based on truths, more tall tales, and historical fact. What does this guy take? Style of language. What are you talking about? They don't treat it like other people treat politics. They treat politics. Yeah, exactly. No, you're 100% correct here, Stephen. To them, this is sports. And this is the problem I think that we've had with with politics, to be very honest. We have made politics a sporting event. I think this is the biggest problem. The only way we can fix this is to take politics out of our daily lives. And what I mean by that is that to stop making it a sporting event. Whereas in prior years, I would even say as early as the 2000s, really, quite frankly, you'd go around the water cooler and it was more about, 2000s probably started to change this a bit. You weren't really quite concerned about politics, right? It was just something that you may have turned on Fox News at 6 o'clock at night. Now it's who you are. It's an identity. It's the jersey you wear. And that's the problem I have. So.
Yes, which is necessary.
So I concede the point that under Trump, your Christian nationalism has gained an advantage under this.
Sorry, we're going to have more kids. We're going to have less abortions. We're going to have more family. We're going to have stable family households. Sorry about better education.
People, gay people should be outlawed.
They should be straight. They should be straight.
Women should be secondary to their husbands.
Oh my God!
Women
that doesn't mean they are slaves. It doesn't mean they are slaves. It means they are protected. Okay, let me ask you. Let me ask you.
No.
Should women be drafted? Should women be drafted?
Listen, I think
if they're equal, should they be drafted?
I think this is the vision that you have, and I think Trump supports it. I think the Christian nationalists he has throughout his government are all going to work towards your vision. And my hope is that when people look at this, they say, hey, wait a second, I don't want my life to be dictated by the notion of a Christian nationalist prescription. Now, you may win out. I mean, certainly, like if you look at a country like Iran, they have a theocracy there, and apparently that's good for them if they want it.
My final point is whenever
but I don't want to live in a theocracy.
My final point is whenever we see people live out Christian values to its full extent, we see a great society. When we see people deviate from that, that's where all the problems arise.
All right,
I think you are at home in the Trump.
Thank you very much.
So Jacob said Trump wasted all the water the farmers needed in California. He didn't stop the fire. No, you're 100% right, Jacob. And the problem with that is that Donald Trump emptied the reservoir in California. So now when there is a drought season, because California has a seasonal drought, which is where they usually use the reservoir with, they're going to have a little bit of a hard time watering their crops. So that means lower yield, which means higher prices. Good job, Trump. Way to raise those grocery prices. I remember Bill Clinton jumping up and down doing the dance when he thought Hillary won. I don't know what you're talking about saying, no, dude.
Voted out. Please return to your seat.
Sorry, guys.
The same people are jumping up here, man.
I think I have an issue with the implications of the prompt. I mean, of course, I'll stick on the religious fundamentalism. I think it's unfair to view Christianity separated from the ideology that Christianity informs, right?
I don't know what you mean by the fires will stop.
You have an ideology that you vote upon because you view it to be the truth
may have stopped,
that benefits
but
everyone
drought
in
season is
society.
going to be really bad.
A democracy works. I,
So-
as a Christian, have an ideology that informs my opinions, and I believe that it is the most moral and correct way for a society to function. So I think if we put religious fundamentalism in a box where you say any moral implications that I draw from this, religion is unable to be voted upon, unable to be pushed onto you because simply it's a religion, is unfair to view it that way. Religion is an ideology like all ideologies.
So mostly folders. The problem was that at best, Trump had a subpar presidency, his first administration. But we're living in a post-2020 world, which means that we now have to deal with Trump absolutely tanking our economy. So this is a big issue we have. So for anyone, I didn't read his chat message. The economy was good under Trump in his first term before the bug. A rising tide lifts all boats. They don't want to admit it, but even Dems benefit from his policies. Not entirely. And keep in mind, too, the problem between, if anybody thinks, and they voted on Trump's first term, thinking it's going to be the same the second time around, they're patently mistaken. Donald Trump's term this time around is going to be far different, and it's already showing how different it really is. He surrounded himself with loyalists and yes men who refused to tell him, hey, this is a bad idea. The first administration, we saw numerous people that were saying, sir, this isn't a great idea. And so you kind of had it was a little shaky. Foundation was a little shaky, but it held up. This time, the foundation is gone. It's gone. And now it's only Trump being surrounded by people who will agree with him and never give him an ounce of critique.
It's you vote away.
I don't mind you. I don't dispute the idea that you could have a religious ideology and want to see it imposed upon others, and it's not inconsistent with my claim. My claim is that Donald Trump is ushering in an element of Christian theocracy that I can't remember his name, and you may be excited about, but I'm not excited about it. I don't think the vast majority of Americans are, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I don't think this country was set up to be a theocracy. democracy.
Sure.
And I find it problematic that it will be. But
Right.
others will be happy about it.
I think it's unfair as well to label any morals that comes from religion inherently immediately theocratic. Like having a theocracy is something different than having.
I think love thy neighbor is
Sure.
a good precept,
Right.
and I don't know that we should necessarily legislate it, but I think it's.
This guy doesn't get what Sam just did. Sam said, I like love thy neighbor. He doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. They don't get it. There's certain fundamental beliefs in the Christian Bible that do have this, like love thy neighbor, right? He doesn't catch it, though.
It's a good precept. I think there are things from religion that are good.
Yeah.
I interviewed Desmond Tutu years ago, who said that religion can be, is like a knife. It can be
Sure,
used to
there's gonna
spread
be a little
butter, it
pain
can
in the
be used
short
to
term.
stab
Time
people.
taker medicine,
But that doesn't mean that I want religious doctrine to be the same as the law of the land. We have a democracy,
Sure.
and it was founded on trying to get out from some type of like religious oppression, which means one religion shouldn't dominate in this country. That's my sense.
Yeah, and I see that, but I think I have an issue with where you would perceive religious doctrine is derived from, right? A guy doesn't, at least in Christianity, a guy doesn't go in a room and come out and say that he has a secret message from God that everyone now has to follow. Religious doctrine is ruled over, it's reasoned over, the same way any ideology is discovered.
I'm not talking about the validity.
Yeah, Brent Johnson said they don't practice love thy neighbor. Yeah, they're deporting their neighbors. Let's be very clear. What I would say is that right now, MAGA is acting, if anybody knows anything about the Bible, they're acting just like the Sadducees and the Pharisees, and you could even say the Romans, and how they treated. That's who they would be equivalent to. They're not practicing Christian principles, if you will. They were the people that were prosecuting Jesus. That's what MAGA is doing right now. They may not see it, but they're not practicing any of the principles that Jesus practiced. Jesus practiced many things. He brought in people who were outcasts in society. We can think about the prostitute that he brought in under him as a disciple. So again, none of the stuff that they're preaching, it's this idea that they are the gospel, if you will. So.
Of religious doctrine.
Right.
I'm talking about religious doctrine supplanting democracy in civil society.
And I'm saying that religious doctrine is democratic inherently, and in the way that you.
Well,
earlier,
I mean, look, we can have a debate as to whether or not women should be subservient to
Exactly.
men. I don't think they should be, and in a democracy, I don't think it's
I love
healthy.
his quips.
But when you said earlier with him that someone shouldn't have I don't know the exact word, like a chokehold on what is religious truth and what isn't religious truth. That's not how religious truth itself works, and that's not how religious truth is brought to the political table to have that work either, right?
Sean, the best way I can put this, because Sean is saying conservatives unalived Jesus. What I'm trying to say is that MAGA is acting as a supreme authority, imposing their, religious doctrine onto society at whole. And so what you're seeing is the Sadducees and the Pharisees basically were the Jewish leaders at that time, and they would go through and they had different philosophies on how to govern. Some were more conservative, some were more liberal. And what they would do is they would interpret, I can't remember which one is which, right? I always mix up the Sadducees and Pharisees. And they would go through and they would read the Torah and they would have these lengthy discussions as to what it is. And they lost sight of the fact that Jesus was Jesus, right? I mean, essentially that's what it came down to. And because of Jesus claiming to be God, that was heresy or whatever it is, and ended up prosecuting Jesus. It's the same thing here that we're seeing is that conservatives and MAGA are claiming the supreme authority on what they know the Bible to be, and they are losing sight of Christian principles, right? The idea, they're losing the sight, the reality that Jesus loved everyone. It did not matter if you were a leper. It did not matter if you were a prostitute. It did not matter if you were a gambler. It did not matter if you were an adulterer. Those were things that Jesus said, come here. And to be honest with you, there's biblical principles where they talk about that it's easier for a poor man to get into heaven than it is a rich person, right? These ideas that the lesser of society is surrounded in biblical teaching. So again, I'm not trying to make this a Bible preaching thing. I don't want to get into all that. But the way that MAGA is behaving is the way that the Sadducees and the Pharisees behaved in the Bible.
No, when Pete Hegseth is in a bar yelling, we're going to kill all Muslims.
Well, that's, yeah.
But now he's in charge of the largest military in the history of the world. I think, and he's informed by his Christian nationalism. I think that's a problem.
Right. Well, but
we can disagree on
yeah,
that.
we don't take...
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
Thanks, Sam.
Return to your seat.
Okay, so Eleazar mentioned his views on gay marriage, and I saw that you believe that...
Can we get more people in here? Why? I mean, I really hope that this changes. I'm going to continue to watch this, but it's the same people coming in on this table, man.
Essentially, conservatives don't believe that gay marriage should be allowed. I want to ask everybody in this room, is there any law or legislation that Donald Trump has passed to prohibit same-sex marriage in the last 4 years? Okay. Is there anyone in here who would potentially oppose two people kissing in public that are of the same sex? You could raise your hand if you want. Yes, in public.
Oh my God. Are you serious? Hold on.
In public that are law or legislation that gay marriage should be allowed. I want to ask everybody in this room, is there any law or legislation that Donald Trump has passed to prohibit same-sex marriage in the last 4 years? Okay. Is there anyone in here who would potentially oppose two people kissing in public that are of the same sex? You could raise your hand if you want. Yes, in public, kissing in public. No law against it, just your own opinion. Okay, so these are all people's opinions, right? The same way you have your opinions about Christians is the same way these.
What? Oh my God. That is wild. That is wild. This is what MAGA does.
These people are allowed.
No, I don't have a problem with Christians.
Well, you do not believe that theology should be at its
We should not have a theocracy.
Correct. Wow. And so what I'm saying is, I think that Christianity. I'm a Catholic. I think that Christianity is, fundamentally very important to instill family values in myself as well as every person who wants to have children. Now let's talk about...
I'm okay with that too.
Let's talk about Order 14,166. That is an executive order that Donald Trump just imposed on identifying what is male and female. So I personally believe, as well as many transsexuals, friends of mine, believe that a woman is a biological female, as well as a man being a biological male. You are assigned what you are at birth. You are not assigned your gender later on. What you choose to express is something that is similar to what...
Good point, Jose. Good point, Jose. Jose said, but they say they all about freedom of speech, but expression of love isn't that, right? Like, come on, man. Out of all the things, like kissing in public, seriously? Like, that's y'all's issue? Really? Dang, man. I know dang good and well if it was of a man and a woman kissing in public, they wouldn't say a single thing, but because it's a man and this is the crazy thing about it is like the guy before the topic before this, when the one guy came up and said, "Isn't it the left that says racism is dead?" It's because of stuff like this. It's because of stuff like this that are reasons why we have anti-discrimination laws. Because there's still people like this that believe that two people that are the same sex can't kiss in public.
Wearing a garment similar to what you decide to put.
I mean, I get it, amphibious, but like I said, to me, this is absurd.
On your face, and I don't think there should be laws or legislations dictating people or imposing laws to manipulate children, for example, to castrate their bodies at such a young age. 50% of children...
Do you know how many children are treated over the past 5 years? Let's say, I think it was from 2018 to 22, there was a study that just came out from Harvard. Do you know how many children received gender-affirming care, but broken down into puberty blockers and then hormones?
Give me the numbers.
You tell me. I'm curious.
Well, I'm curious because you're bringing it up.
No, I have the numbers.
Okay, tell me.
I do, but I'm curious if you know.
Tell me what the numbers are.
I promise to tell you after you tell me.
This is so triggered. So triggered.
No, I'm not gonna play that game.
Because I have a feeling
we're not playing this game.
No, I am playing this game because
Why?
I think you think it's much higher. When you tell me that kids are being castrated, I know you don't really know what these numbers are, and I do know these numbers.
Okay, well, I can tell you this much.
What?
It was reported that scientifically, every single child who has received gender-affirming care, about roughly 50% of them regret it, and 50% of them are suicidal because of it. They're actually more depressed because of it.
How many of those?
I love the fact check here. Studies on the subject can suffer from researcher bias and methodological errors, including inadequate follow-up and imprecise measurement and poorly chosen sample bases. Doctors agree more research is needed.
Those kids, how many?
A psychologist,
how
by
many
the way.
over the course of 5 years?
Well, tell me.
You tell me. Just give
I know
me
what
a
you're trying to
ballpark.
do. You're trying to put me in this choke.
Hey, listen, real quick. We've got 259 people in here. Please hit that like, subscribe, notification bell if you enjoy this content, because there's plenty of more, and we stream Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Let's get right back into it. But there's 259 of you guys. Please hit the like, subscribe, notification bell.
Cold of like
No, I'm
a
not trying to
gotcha
put you in a
moment.
trap. No, this is definitely a gotcha
No.
moment, because I'm suggesting to you that you think this problem is much bigger than
It
it
is a huge problem.
Okay.
Medi-Cal, you know, Medi-Cal covers inmate trans women.
I understand that, yes. And I know
medical coverage.
one person has had that surgery.
I don't understand how my taxes should go for an inmate prisoner
if
who
you
wants
have
to transition.
I am so tired of the my taxes are going to this, my taxes are going to that. I'm so frustrated by that. It reminds me of the whole idea of like the homeless veteran talking point, right? That people use when they're like, I want why are my tax dollars going to Ukraine and not homeless veterans? As if you voted for that. What has Donald Trump done for homeless veterans? Tell me, what has Donald Trump done for homeless veterans? How many? What he's done? Nothing in the past month. Quite frankly, I don't know if he did anything in his first administration for homeless veterans. I could be wrong on that, though.
Well, I think because we got to do health care for prisoners, and you don't consider it real health care. But
Gavin
hold on, I
Newsom
don't want
has
to get...
imposed
listen,
$2.6
it's
billion in
900 kids
2022.
over 5 years.
That is a lot of
receive
children.
Puberty blockers.
That is a lot of children.
900
AB
kids over 5 years.
547 just
Do you know how
passed,
many,
including
do you know how
gender
many kids died
identity,
during COVID?
gender identity
All right.
to allow children
10
to be
kids a
separated from
month
their parents
die
just
from
due to not
accidental
affirming their gender
gun deaths.
identity.
But here's the point. Listen, Trump is, how is he hurting these people? He just rescinded the ability of the labor.
Wow. Look at that fact check.
Trump is...
Data compiled by Reuters and the health technology company Komodo found that from 2017 to 2021, 4,780 adolescents started puberty blockers and had a gender dysphoria diagnosis. A new study from JAMA Pediatrics found that only 0.1% of young patients in the study were transgender and prescribed puberty blockers or hormone therapy.
How is he hurting these people? He just rescinded the ability of the Labor Bureau to investigate discrimination in workplace. Are you for trans people being discriminated in workplace?
They're never being discriminated. Hold
Are
on.
you for trans people being discriminated with
I'm
housing?
very passionate about that question. And can I answer it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I believe that affirmative action should be...
It's not affirmative action.
Oh, then what is it?
It's anti-discrimination. It's
Okay,
not saying that you have to
regardless,
hire
hold on.
trans people.
Okay,
It's
well,
saying
hold on.
you can't fire someone when you find out they're trans.
Okay, well, hold on a minute. So when you hire someone or when you interview someone, for example, you are supposed to interview them based on their knowledge and their work ethic.
Here we go again. Right back to the hiring people based on certain immutable characteristics. That's not what DEI is, but here we go.
Not based on sex.
I'm not saying affirmative
not based
action.
on their sexual
Are you
orientation.
allowed to fire them if you find out they're trans?
If you need to, then you should. If you need to, then you should.
So we have a disagreement. I don't believe people should be discriminated against.
Pause.
And that's not discrimination. It's based on your knowledge, not what you sleep with, not who you.
It's discrimination that if you find out that somebody is trans and you fire them, that is blatant textbook discrimination. They hate the facts just like to cherry pick the Bible. They like to cherry pick everything else to justify their prejudice. Exactly, Jose. Jose, you're on point today. You're on fire. Good job.
Sleep with. Just saying.
Oh, here we go. I'd seen some things about this exchange. We'll see what it's going to take.
Sam.
So I actually think that this liberal world order needs to be thrown away completely, and I think Christian
Liberal
nationalism would be a
world
good
order.
alternative. What we're seeing right now is
And
just
congratulations.
and thank you. And yeah, I think what we're seeing right now is a culture of death. This is the most suicidal generation ever. We have millions of children dying by abortion. People aren't even reproducing. We don't even have like a.
Should we mandate people reproduce?
No, I don't think we need to mandate. We can just stop them from killing their kids.
You want to outlaw abortion?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, we have a fundamental disagreement on this, and my claim was that if you voted for Trump.
Wait. Okay, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? So let me get this right. Let me just get this right. Never mind. All right.
It would be to your benefit if you want to outlaw abortion.
I think it would benefit everyone.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that that women should have the right to choose.
I think that it would benefit everyone to bring back the family unit. to stop having women just thrown into the workforce.
Maybe we shouldn't allow women to choose to divorce unless their husbands say it's okay.
Oh my goodness. They're all about discriminating. Like now that I'm sure she wants to repeal like the right for them to vote, maybe get rid of the right to vote.
I mean, I don't really believe in divorce in general, so like, sure.
All right, I mean, this
oh my gosh.
This, I think, though, reinforces my point that if you are
but it would be better for society. It would be better for everybody in society. And same with xenophobic what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Don't you think that's better for Americans in general?
Xenophobic nationalism is better.
We should have a coherent culture. Everyone should be a part of the same culture. We should have assimilation.
Which, do you get to choose what the culture is?
We already have a dominant culture
what's
based
that
on
culture?
European and Christian values and identity. That is the dominant culture.
White
It's
Christian,
rooted in European identity.
So your argument is that
has been the dominant culture.
Just to be
and
clear,
we're not letting people assimilate to that. We're saying you should keep your culture, and this is why our culture is so divided.
Your argument is that Trump is good for those who want a dominant white European culture.
I mean, that is what America is. It's rooted in European identity and Christian values. That's what it has been. Would you really disagree with that? What is it then, if that's not the identity of America?
Well, I think the identity of
For the
America...
majority of time, America's been a country. You don't think that's been the identity?
Well, actually, no. I think actually the identity of America has been, for better or for worse, a melting pot in that regard.
Yeah, maybe since like the 1960s. Even then,
Bruh. The 1960s? Is she referring to the Civil Rights Act? We have been a melting pot since our creation. What in the world? Oh my goodness. She wants everything to be naturally occurring, but use the word assimilated. Evangelical wants to become the Holy Roman Empire.
Had this idea of a melting pot literally means assimilation too. It means melting. It means you're assimilating to the culture. Is that not what melting means?
No, it doesn't
and now
mean
instead we're saying there's something wrong with xenophobia.
Culture. No. I mean, look, I got to be honest with you. You and I have a fundamental disagreement. We will never see eye to eye on this. It's a choice. And people, I think what you're expressing, though, is really what the Trump movement at its heart is about. And I think that's problematic.
I disagree. I don't think Trump's anywhere close to being a Christian nationalist. That's ridiculous. Trump's basically a Democrat from 15 years ago.
What? Trump has that crazy pastor lady as the head of the religious department or something of that, in the White House. And then you had Trump sitting there making a movement about Jesus is Lord and everything else. What? What? Donald Trump is about borderline to Christian nationalism as you can get.
When it comes to social
So you don't think that he's conservative enough for you?
Oh, definitely. Nowhere close. No.
He's not xenophobic enough for you?
No, he's trying to import a bunch of H-1Bs. Are you kidding?
Right. Oh, so you want to...
Oh my gosh. Sam is just making her I think someone put it in the comments where they're she would be really happy with a certain era and my gosh. This is insane. What is an H-1B? It's basically where an undocumented or an immigrant can come from another country. And in this case, she's worried about it being a certain skin color coming from another country. Oh my God.
Get them out too. Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're making my argument for me.
All right.
Well, okay. I'm just saying he's not even in this.
Okay, I want people to understand why Sam Cedar is thank you, you proved my point. The prompt was, unless you're a billionaire, religious fundamentalist, or a xenophobic nationalist, voting for Trump was a mistake. Unless you are these three categories, voting for Trump was a mistake. So she just proved his point correct. Oh my gosh.
My next claim is the GOP will destroy Social Security.
Oh yeah, they're absolutely going to.
Nice to see you.
So, what if Social Security should go away? That's my question to you.
Because Social Security keeps 2/3 of our elderly out of poverty, and not only does it keep our elderly out of poverty, it's essentially a social insurance program that protects you if at the end of your life you don't have enough money to survive.
Right, Webster. You shouldn't tell her that it was from Let's give her a podcast on a meme coin. Yeah, I know, right? Right, Wes? We'll ignore the conflict of interest there with the whole meme coin with Trump, right?
For right now, do you know that it's also the albatross around our generation's neck?
No, it isn't.
Okay, so
let me just explain this.
Well, you're going to go back to lecturing me about Social Security.
Well, that's what we're talking about. Social Security.
Yeah, Social Security is one of the top 3 funded.
Social Security is almost the biggest thing that our government does.
Exactly, and we are more than $30 trillion in debt.
Well, first of all,
$30 trillion in debt because Donald Trump ended up contributing over, I think it's like $8 trillion to the national debt. By the way, Joe Biden only contributed $4 trillion to the national debt. If you want someone who is fiscally responsible, the best people to vote in to office are Democrats.
Social Security cannot contribute legally to the deficit.
Because they don't even account it in the federal deficit every year.
That's correct,
we have
because
30
it's
years.
self-funding. When Social Security started in 1936, you have more workers than retirees.
Hey, guys, we're 2 likes away from 100 likes. Let's get those 2 likes in. At least 2 likes. Come on, guys.
Because people haven't entered into retirement. By 1970, it was at 3.5 to 1. Now it's at 2.5 to 1. But productivity has increased during that time, so the amount of money paid into Social Security has been up there. The reason why we are running out of money just for the trust fund, not for Social Security, like I say, if we do nothing with Social Security now, it is statutorily unable to contribute to the debt. The math is right there. The reason why the trust fund is running out is because wealth inequality has hoarded so much money above the cap.
You don't think it's because the government does a terrible job managing their money? They have a huge spending problem and they go...
Donald Trump definitely had a big spending problem, but we won't talk about that, will we? Oh, that's right, because you don't even do your research. And so you don't even know that Donald Trump ended up spending massive amounts of money, and he will inevitably end up spending massive amounts of money. What about that? Remember, who was it that raised the budget, the debt ceiling, guys? Who was that? Oh, it was Republicans who raised the debt ceiling just now.
Look at all this money we have for Social Security that's earmarked for 60 years from now that we're just going to spend on something right now.
40 years ago, they predicted this. This is an actuarial table. Accountants sit there and look at it. This is a very easy math problem.
Accountants in the government are always right? That's totally the thing that you're saying? That they're always correct about money, right? That's why we have a $40 trillion debt problem.
The problem isn't the math with the $40 trillion debt problem. It's you have tax
cuts. It's the spending problem. I totally agree with you, which I would argue is part of why Social Security has gone in the hole already.
That's simply not true.
Oh, okay. So we're out of money from the Social Security bucket.
No. Statutorily, by that I mean by law, Social Security pays for itself. If we do nothing,
Right.
The 6.2% that your employer and your employee pays into it will pay out 78% of benefits starting in 2033.
And why is it going down? If everything's so much better, why is it only 78%?
If we raise the cap...
Would you rather Harris be president? Yes.
There's a cap right now at $176,000.
Employers and employees each pay 6.2% a year on up to $176,000 in income. Self-employed workers pay 12%. Yeah, self-employment tax is crazy, bro. Self-employment tax is insane.
So, for instance, if you make $100,000, you pay $6,200 into that.
A year,
A year. But if you make $4 million, do you know how much money you pay into Social Security? $6,200.
And so why should wealthy people hang on? Why should wealthy people pay a higher percentage?
No, they should pay the same percentage. 6.2 on $400,000, 6.2 on $1 million.
And why should they pay even more money at all? Because they make more money? Again, you fundamentally have this idea that because you have an idea that because somebody makes more money, that's fundamentally wrong, right?
No, I don't think it's fundamentally wrong. I think that they should pay more taxes into it. Now, I do think as a society, we should not allow billionaires. So, for instance,
they can pay more taxes generally, but why should
the highest tax rate was and the greatest expansion of our economy in this country?
Does a billionaire get more money from Social Security if they went to go take it than I would?
No,
of course not. So why should they pay more?
I'll tell you why. Because it is a social insurance program that keeps you from being in poverty when you're a senior. And the reason why I think billionaires should pay more taxes than other people, even a higher percentage, is because it works better for society. The greatest expansion we've had in this country in terms of economics and the least amount of wealth disparity was in the 40s and 50s and 60s in this country. Do you know what the top marginal rate was?
Yep.
It was high.
Do you know what it was?
I don't know the exact number, but
it was high. It was very high. Real quick, I'm going to address this. Tippy said AOC, or not Tippy, Two Tufts said AOC should run. I actually made this joke. By the way, welcome in Gigantic Wasp. Oh, this is, okay. I got to boot him. Anyways, AOC, I actually made a joke. I said AOC and Jasmine Crockett would be a hell of a power ticket in the right sense. I don't know if it'd be like a most viable choice, but I think AOC and Jasmine Crockett would be pretty great.
made over $470,000 in 1955, every dollar you would make above that was taxed at 90%.
So I have a question.
90 cents on every dollar was taxed above 470. So if we had in today's dollars,
which is wild, by the way. But
and it's also the greatest expansion we had.
In 1955, individuals making more than $200,000 or married couples with an income of more than $400,000 were taxed at 91% at the highest tax bracket. It's funny too, because Donald Trump's view and MAGA's views is they want to go back to like the 1900s and implement a crap ton of tariffs, but yet nobody wants to go back to the 1960s where we can get our tax, bring our taxes. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, you can expand for a time, and then you see places, you see like Nordic countries that were like, oh, let's tax the hell out of our rich people, right? And then they go, whoops, we messed up. We can't actually live off of our terrible. We basically are able to live off our economic boom that they had between like the 40s and the 90s, and then we have to revert all of that because we made a terrible choice. And we were able to have a party for 50 years until we realized we ran through all the money that capitalism got us. So let me ask you real quick. So the average person, right? Right now they fundamentally look at Social Security, young people like me, and they go, I'm going to have that money sitting, waiting for me when I retire. Since your opinion is whatever works best for the average person is better, wouldn't you rather shift towards something that I would agree with, which is getting people that are 19, 20 years old into funding their own retirement rather than relying on other people to fund it for them?
You're talking like a 401k.
Sure. Well, not just the 401k, but for IRAs, any other type of retirement. Would you agree? Would we agree with that?
Social Security was set up as part of a three-legged stool where back in the day when I was a kid, we had defined benefit pensions where you'd know how much money you would get out. Yeah. That all shifted in the 80s to defined contribution where you know how much you put in. The 401k started during that Reagan era. It has been a disaster because the fact of the matter, for better or for worse, people just don't save in the way that you're talking about.
Why?
It would be nice if they could,
if the
because
government...
things are...
The reason why, and look, I'm gonna say it like it is, and it may not be popular. I do feel like if you were forced to... Here's the thing. I don't like having to be forced to put money into something. I agree with that. But the problem is that if people have an option between putting money into something or not, the more likely they're not going to put money into something, right? More times than not, and keep in mind too, what if that person cannot contribute any money to that particular 401k, right? So you need some kind of a safety net to prepare for the case that they are not able to, provide for themselves. And so I do agree that there's some kind of an element of forcing somebody to pay via tax versus a 401k. And keep in mind too, that putting somebody to invest into a Roth IRA, there's a big difference between, and this is not investment advice, by the way, a Roth IRA versus a 401k are completely different as well. The way that a 401k is managed versus a Roth IRA, it's completely different. You can have someone manage your Roth IRA, I suppose, but it might come at a fee, whereas a 401k is typically managed by some kind of a brokerage or something like that. So again, I think these two investment tools are completely different. And again, this would also require, if you want to do that, then to reinvest into the school system. It's just crazy to me. So I think, by the way, Social Security is just probably the best way to make sure we have a social safety net. And like Sam Cedar said, make sure that the people who are making $400,000 or more are paying into the system as well. So yeah. Tariffs or tax. Well, again, I think that, quite frankly, we should be taxing. There's a fair balance, too, right? So tariffs aren't inherently bad. I think this is the other thing, too, is MAGA ideology has gotten to this mindset that it's either or. Either you have everything or you have nothing. MAGA does not believe in a hybrid system. They believe in all or nothing. And so when they look at tariffs, it's either all tariffs, no income tax, all deportations, or none, which that's the ideology they work in. I've argued with people about deportations. They're like, oh, so you're for slave labor? No, I'm for a pathway to citizenship. Most Democrats believe in a hybrid system, but MAGA believes in an all or nothing, and that all or nothing is usually the all. They want all. They don't want half. And that's the crazy thing about the system that we're in now, right? They want to get rid of the income tax, which is laughable. They'll not be able to do it. And they keep putting the cart before the horse. They're doing deportations before fixing the border. They're putting in tariffs before they've actually gotten industries to agree to move to the United States. And they're taxing all tariffs or blanket tariffs. They're not doing targeted tariffs. They have an all or nothing mentality. It's insane to me. If they're working, they're putting that money you say they can't put into that retirement. Can you live on $100K or is that too little? Right. I mean, it depends on the area, Jose, right? I mean, in some areas you might be able to live on 100K, in some areas you won't, right? I mean, we could look at, the obvious ones, California versus say, I don't want to say Texas because Texas is kind of whatever. But I mean, you can look at different costs of living, right? Even in California, I'm sure there's certain areas that are more expensive than others, even in California in and of itself. You can't have tariffs and bring in industry and make money. It can only be one or the other. You can't have tariffs and bring in industry. Well, no, but Wolves, this is the problem. You don't understand then that Donald Trump managed, I believe, with his steel and aluminum tariffs that were targeted in his first administration that Joe Biden continued and kept through his administration, was designed in a way to put pressure onto an industry to bring them back to the United States or whatever it may be. But I want to keep this in mind as well. When you bring them back to the United States, people don't forget this. And I want to get back to the video because I've been way off the video. But what I want to say is this. We're only halfway through. We got a long way to go. And it's okay because I'm going to be here streaming. I've got nothing else to do. The problem with these tariffs is naturally when you bring people back to the United States, labor here in the United States is inherently more expensive. Keep in mind, though, this is also in an isolation bubble where other countries are not tariffing us back. And what other countries have done is every time Trump puts in a tariff, they're like, well, we're going to tariff you right back. And what that does is cause companies to shut down because they can't export and they can't import the raw materials. So they shut down. Trickle-down works if the rich pay their fair share, but that's never happened, so they're never. Okay, let's go on.
If the government were changing the mindset and actually pushing that cultural shift towards, we're not just going to hand you money when you're 65. You have to plan for it right now.
We've had a 40-year experiment with the government affecting the cultural mindset, and it failed.
He had a 40-year experiment of everybody. You know what my parents say? Do you know what grandparents say? They go, well, I'm just waiting for my social security check to come in, rather than I have $800,000 waiting for me because I thought about it when I was 19 and 20 because I didn't have this grab bag of money waiting for me. You're assuming that young people.
I try and tell my kids.
So we agree. We should get rid of Social Security and phase it out. Well, no. So we should phase out. How would you listen to this idea? You phase out Social Security to where people who have 5 years left before they retire get 100% of the benefits, and then people like me who have 40 years until we retire, I'm not going to get it. I'm going to get screwed either way.
No,
you really think I'm going to get Social Security someday?
I guarantee you, at the very least, you're going to get 78% of your benefits.
That's awesome. I'll get $9,000 a year. That's great.
In calling for our government to increase the cap, in fact, get rid of the cap, then your grandkids will get Social Security.
I would much rather, and again, maybe we'll just disagree, but I would much rather result to, hey, 20-year-olds, please save for your own retirement, invest for your own retirement, because the government is bad at dealing with money.
And what happens
don't rely
if they
on them. What happens if what?
What happens if those 20-year-olds don't listen to you?
The same thing that happens if a 20-year-old just doesn't go and get a job because I tell them to.
No.
They're going to have a problem, but that's not my fault.
No, I got news for you. It's not your fault, but there used to be in New York City 30,000 people sleeping on the Bowery.
No one in this room was alive before Social Security. We've all lived under this, just like the
and it
income
has
tax.
been the most successful government program in the history of our government.
Things that are successful don't just start to die out and end up in the.
It's not dying out.
It's the grab bag of money, the massive excess that was there in the early years because of the 42-to-1 benefit.
There wasn't a massive excess in 1936.
42-to-1 is a massive excess.
There weren't that many people who had entered into the Social Security program.
And the fact that
in 1970 it was 3.5 workers to 1. Now it's 2.5, but productivity has increased it. I've told you why the Social Security Trust Fund is running out. It is because of wealth disparity. Billionaires hiding and hoarding their money above the cutoff line, which is 176,000. That's the cap. If you remove the cap, your grandkids
billionaires aren't keeping $2 billion under their mattress. They're investing it back into.
They're just putting it into some stock market, or they're just looking around.
And what do you think of
crypto,
401k?
Right, looking at crypto. Maybe they're going to be looking at that Trump meme coin, right? So yeah, a lot of people are living above their means. I just divorced Jose. Yeah, they're living above their means, but the rich have the choice, and poor people don't count. What's up? Love your mindset. Just subscribe. Trump blows. Has got to go. I'm Canadian, by the way. I love Americans. My fight is with Trump. Yeah, Drews, welcome in. And listen, man, or woman. I think Canada. Trump has done one great thing. It's that he has managed to somehow unite the Canadian people. The Canadian people absolutely love Donald Trump, and it is absolutely hysterical to me to see that because Donald Trump thought he was going to somehow manage to break the will of Canada, if you will, and single-handedly decided somehow, some way that he was going to change Canada's patriotism. So, yeah, and it was kind of crazy to see the booing and stuff that happened during the national anthems. And I'll say they're showing exactly how patriotism should be done by trying to put a pinch on American-made goods. So what in the world is going on? second. Yeah, so they're trying to put the pinch on there. But yeah, Drew, my man, by the way. Okay. I don't know. Drew can be like either way, right? So.
An IRA relies upon. It relies on the stock market and things like that.
Yeah, a 401k relies on the stock market. And I knew people who were retiring in 2008 when the stock market tanked and they got screwed.
Well, that's a whole other problem. I would argue that's largely driven by the government once again.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing too, is like the idea that you're going to put into a 401k or Roth IRA, what happens when the stock market crashes? At least with Social Security, you have a pretty, and this is the whole reason why, like, you know, when you get into government bonds and things like that are pretty, like, you know, pretty solid or whatever, right? They're better than like stocks or whatever, but that's, again, not investment advice. So yeah, like what happens when the stock market crashes? What then? Are you're out of luck on retirement now and you don't have a Social Security to fall back on? I'm in Canada. I can only speak for myself and the people I know, but I'll never go back to buying American products. Won't be traveling there ever again as well. I know you didn't all vote for. Yeah, no, Shane, exactly. I mean, look, Canada, I'll tell you, man, Canadian patriotism is just like wild to me to see what y'all are going through. Seeing y'all take stuff off the counters and stuff, it's like, wow, lit a fire under there, man. All right, so let's go and do this.
Terrible with policy and creating bad economic hazards.
Social Security is there regardless of what happens with the stock market.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Micah.
Hey, Micah.
Good to meet
Sam,
you.
nice to meet you.
There's an idea that you have that basically government can kind of fix all these problems, right? If you didn't save for retirement, well, then the government can just come in, swoop in, and save you from that.
Well, not swoop in. It starts on literally the day you get your Social Security.
Sure. It swoops in once you retire, right? Once you can.
Well, you pay into it.
Right, exactly. And so you believe this idea, basically, that government is an effective organization, which it does time and time again. If you look at history, that's.
Kyle, Canada is not stupid. I would say Canada is very smart. They're learning how Donald Trump works, and they understand, and they're starting to go on the offense as well. Canadians are really trying to put a pinch, and the funny thing is that they control a massive portion of, I believe, I don't know if it's all of America or just the northern states, but the northern states, I know for sure, get some of their electricity from Canadian electrical grid. So pretty funny how that works, right?
Proven to not be true.
When you're hitting at retirement, you don't know. This is an insurance program. That's it. It's an insurance program, and it basically says you're insured against eating cat food when you're 65, and it works. It works.
No, it doesn't. You should have, well, one, you should have your own personal.
How doesn't it work?
How doesn't it work?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've already discussed the details of how it is just completely failing as a program. Like,
well, how is it failing?
Because
Hubert said Canada already removed Tesla EV tax credits. Yeah, I mean, Hubert, dude, Canada's going all in. And they're showing the way. And yeah, you even have some of the people on the conservative side of Canada going nuts on those tariffs and stuff. So yeah.
I'm not going to receive any Social Security
I've already
benefit.
told you right now.
I know. I'm not going to rehash out that debate.
Well,
I agree with you, Adam. If Elon gave away half of his fortune, he'd still be in the top 10. And keep in mind, too, this is the most disgusting thing I've seen, is that, like, MAGA still complain. The crazy thing to me is how Donald Trump sits there and complains about unelected bureaucrats in his speech to Congress as Elon Musk is sitting in the gallery. And the crazy thing to me is that Elon Musk is still receiving contracts to his companies. Elon Musk is what MAGA hates the most, but yet because Elon supports them, they turn a blind eye to it. Elon Musk has contributed. The reason why Elon Musk has so much wealth that he does is because he's received government subsidies. He is the thing, the idol, if you will, of what the right believes the left is. That the left is receiving all this government funds. Elon Musk is only as wealthy as he is because of the fact that he's received so much government subsidies.
Look at the numbers. You've just been told this, and you know why you've been told it? It's because they want to raid it to give tax cuts to rich people. That's why.
So are you saying there are the Trump tax cuts were only for rich people? You're saying
no, I'm not saying they're only for rich people.
Oh, okay. Then how could
rich people benefited more from it than low-income people? And
what do you mean benefited more from that? Because we already went over the percentage numbers, and we know that's not true.
They don't need the money as much, and they don't need it.
What are you talking about? These rich people are the people that are investing in smaller businesses. These are the people that are...
They're investing in smaller businesses. Why would they be investing in smaller businesses? Can someone answer to me why these billionaires might be investing in smaller businesses? Or are they investing in stock of these smaller businesses? How are they investing in these smaller businesses? Why might they be doing it? Could it be for a tax break? Could it be for the fact of them trying to get a return on their investment to become more wealthy? Could it be that? And again, does that mean that they then should somehow end up not paying as much taxes because they're looking out for the betterment of themselves? And right there, KR, you're exactly right as well, because they want to buy them out. We see this with a lot of larger companies. They buy out smaller failing companies so that they get a return on their investment. Keegan on Twitch said, well, yes, he received some $40 billion in funds over the last 20 years, but since like 2021, he's paid over $12 billion in taxes each year. I don't know if that's completely true, but I know for a fact he's received quite a substantial amount of money, or at least Tesla and SpaceX have received substantial government contracts, all while Doge is going in and cutting contracts. And yet we still don't really know if Elon is in charge of Doge, even though Donald Trump has clearly stated he is in charge, even though in court filings they said he wasn't.
Giving other people jobs to allow them to provide for their family.
Okay, pause.
Hey, real quick, guys, I want to make this announcement. We're at 786 subscribers. We are 14 subscribers away from 800 subscribers. My goal is by April, or really, I mean, guys, we're already at almost 800 subscribers. I would like to get 1,000 subscribers by April. Can we make this happen? I just need 14 people. Hit that like and subscribe notification bell. There's your advertisement. Let's continue.
What's up? Hey. Good to be back.
Nice to see you.
Okay, yeah, nice to see you too. I want to zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
So obviously you're pinpointing on Social Security, and there's a reason for that.
And healthcare too.
Oh, okay, but Social Security is the program that you're very concerned about, and that
Medicare. I'd love a Medicare for all program, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the reason you're focusing in on Social Security precisely is because Social Security is the most successful in a shadow of social welfare programs and government spending. That it's like the Democrats.
It's also the biggest bucket of money.
It is the biggest bucket, but the Democrats have these social programs and this deficit spending, and it just never ends. It's never enough money. So you're focusing on Social Security because it is the one successful child, but you're ignoring all the social welfare state that we.
Appreciate you, Shane. Subbed. It's nice to see not all Americans have lost their minds and morals. Trust me. I will tell y'all, I used to be a conservative. I saw the light, so to speak. I realized, what have I done? I realized that the party that I had supported had gone, excuse my language, but batshit crazy. And so I said, look, I need to end up getting off the ship. And now I am a liberal. I voted for a Democrat for the first time ever in my life. I voted for Kamala Harris and Colin Allred. So.
Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid make up
the majority.
Over like a
right. So
70%
of our federal spending is mandatory. And you're right. It's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, interest on debt. 8% of our.
According to Center on Budget and Policy Priority, 61% of spending is mandatory and 13% is on interest payments for a total of 74%. So. I saw someone in chat mention Elon bought the presidency for $270 million. Trump reports to him. And two, Tefs, this is actually completely right in a way, right? One of the things that I think that Donald Trump does is Donald Trump has shown that he's going to give positions to those who donate to him. And he's in a very precarious position. And it's, there's been rumors that Elon Musk has gotten into it with like Sean Duffy, Marco Rubio, things like that, because he is one of Donald Trump's biggest donors, if not the biggest, I believe. And so what's happening is Donald Trump's like, I can't get rid of him because he's helping fund all of these Republicans, all of my friends. And so right now, Elon Musk is in way more power than he ought to be. And I do believe, and I hope, and I pray that our judicial branch holds up really strongly to say this is way too much power for one man who's unelected.
For that. So the Democrats run on this, essentially they want a welfare state. So yes, Social Security might help a lot of people, but it's like we're closer to a welfare state than we've ever been. 38% of the GDP in the US is government spending. That's the highest since World War II. So us conservatives, we're trying to tell you, like, you guys are fiscally really
So are you worried about the tax cuts and what that does to the debt and deficit?
The tax cuts increased revenue.
No.
Yes.
I want to tell you about Kansas.
Okay, tell me about Kansas.
Sam Brown back in 2012 brought in Arthur Laffer. You know the Laffer curve, right? That's the argument that if you cut taxes, you're going to get more revenue.
That's exactly what happened.
Kansas.
No, that's exactly what happened to TCJ.
It destroyed Kansas. By 2016,
Kansas enacted tax and spending cuts in 2012 and 2013. Brownback argued that this fiscal position would generate an explosion of economic growth, but overall growth and job creation in Kansas underperformed both the national economy and neighboring states. I didn't know about this. So apparently they, because what ends up happening is that they end up basically reinvesting it back into their business, not reinvesting back into business. They kind of hold on to it, right? You give a tax cut to these billionaires, what are they going to do? They're going to be like, hey, it's sweet. They're not going to reinvest it. They're like, hey, bro, I got my money. I'm on it away. And it didn't increase much. And keep in mind, too, that the tax cuts from Trump's first era, all it did was ended up, now, be very careful of these percentages. You will see that the bottom 1% or whatever, like the people that were the poor people, I guess, or whatever, they ended up benefiting the most percentage wise. But that's because their baseline was so small that any slight change would have been dramatic compared to the larger portion. So what you find is that the bottom one, or the below $20,000 whatever per year, they ended up seeing a 20 to 30% reduction in their taxes or whatever it was. But what you don't see is that the top 1% who only saw a 6% reduction actually saved over $600,000 or $400,000 to $600,000. Whereas the bottom 1% ended up only saving like $20 to $30. But again, it goes back to the fact that their baseline was so small that's why the percentage is misleading. Be very, very careful of those percentages. Yes, these entrepreneurs are investing into their growing business. Kyle, the entrepreneurs aren't the ones that are making these billions and millions of dollars. Some are, but not all of them. A vast majority of them are taking in those tax cuts and enjoying them, maybe buying a new yacht. Maybe. I think one of the problems the biggest with modern democracy is that people get attached to a political party and blindly vote instead of looking into what each party wants between every election. Yeah, I mean, that's a valid point too. But again, this is just trying to want to reel that in is just not going to happen in our current political climate.
Let's look at the
Republican
numbers.
legislature raised taxes again. They destroyed their education
Reality
system.
is against you, my friend.
Look up Kansas.
The numbers
during
say
the Trump administration, they sent Sam Brown back. They made him the ambassador to faith because they didn't want this guy around because it was a disaster.
If you want to tax the rich, you should vote Republican because they pay more in taxes under Republican. It was the same as Reagan. It was the same as Trump.
Look at Kansas.
At the U.S. Look at the U.S. We have the numbers
it
for
was
this.
the perfect
Obama's
experiment.
best year,
It destroyed
federal income
Kansas.
revenue, is pales in comparison to Trump's worst year. Do you get what I'm saying? Does more taxes necessarily equate to more revenue?
Yes.
No, that's where you're wrong. So if you look at TCJA, and I'll say the numbers again, the top 1% paid more into the system. GDP grew, wages grew 3% year over year under TCJA. So when you're saying tax the rich, it sounds like you're actually a Republican. You just don't know it yet.
You're not.
I think I wasn't paying attention, but I think he just mentioned what I was talking about, which again, he's doing the percentage thing, which is totally the people play with percentages all the time. Like, think about it. I go from $1 to $2. I just saw a 100% increase in my revenue. It sounds great, right? It sounds great. I went from $1 to $2, but in theory, that's only $1 increase. You know what I'm saying? So be very careful with these percentages.
You're confusing causation with correlation because Obama's economic recovery was way too slow, and I agree with you on that.
Way too slow.
Way too slow.
When you have tons of stimulus, what you're doing is you're creating the Great Depression for the bottom 90%. All the assets inflate. So who does that benefit? Your policies benefit the 1%. Inflation disproportionately benefits the 1%. It's an immoral tax on the poor. And that's exactly what happens when they stimulate.
Inflation was not a function of monetary stimulus.
It absolutely was. They increased the money supply by $6 trillion.
No, I understand they did that. I understand they did that. And they could pull it back on taxes with the wealthy if they wanted to. You're making an argument for higher taxation.
Okay, do you think taxing people makes the country wealthier? Is that what you think?
Does it make the country
wealthier? Do taxes
wealthier?
make us wealthy? Is that government increasing taxes? Are we now more wealthy? Do you think that the only way you create wealth is by producing?
If you tax and spend, government stimulus can, yes, increase GDP, of course.
Is GDP wealth?
Is GDP wealth?
If we import 10 million immigrants and our GDP goes up, are we now wealthier? If the
these aren't one for one. You can't really say because GDP goes up that we're wealthier. Sure, people are spending more, but why are they spending? For example, Donald Trump, the problem I have with this is Donald Trump during his term ended up providing stimulus checks, right? In 2020, sent out stimulus checks. The government provided those checks. Are we wealthier because of that? Because we spent more? I don't know if I would say that. I don't know how I feel about that.
If the housing costs more, if CPI goes up because there's more people.
No, I understand. Inflation is under control, and we haven't pulled that money off the table.
Right, but I'm just saying that
inflation is back down because we had a problem.
The welfare state.
So many circular arguments. How so, Wolves? I'm on, am I 1.5 or am I 1.2? I'm on 1.25, guys. I'm on 1.25 and they're talking fast. It's like slightly above 1.
Makes us all poorer. Yes, it does. And you can see
It doesn't.
across history.
If you compare,
people want to come here for economic opportunity. We don't want handouts. We want opportunity. That's why as an immigrant, that's why my family came here. We left the socialist paradise. It's garbage. The people that come here want economic opportunity. And you're stifling that. You're undermining capitalism and the free markets with your utopian vision.
There is no free market.
Well, there's not anymore.
No, there's
but
never
now
been a
there
free
used to be.
market. No.
That is what makes America the greatest. That's what makes the greatest. America is the
Right, Jose. Hey, what about the conservatives' notion of not accepting handouts? Now, they accepted those handouts, and Donald Trump wanted to put his name on those stimulus checks. Don't forget about that.
Greatest economy in the world because of the free market.
The greatest
free market capitalism is the most ethical and
America
moral.
had was when we had 90% tax.
That's not true. The numbers are against you.
1940, 1950, 1960, the highest top marginal tax rate was 90%, and we
when
had
Milton Friedman predicted stagflation in the 70s with your social welfare.
We had OPEC. We had
your
an
welfare
oil shock that drove inflation way up, and that was a function of OPEC. But in the 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s, highest top marginal tax rate was 90%. We had wealth inequality shrink. We had something called the Great Compression, and more people enjoyed
World War II industrial revolution. We were producing more than every other country. It's because we were producing more than every other country. That's what creates wealth.
And we
production.
were doing that with a 90% tax rate on the wealthiest individuals. 90%.
It's interesting the correlation here that he's providing here. My question would be, would he provide the same amount of generosity to, say, Joe Biden? Right? Would he provide this same amount of generosity to Joe Biden, who also... Uh-oh. What? Oh, no. What happened here? What happened? Damn it.